Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday night with FGM ECast. I'm your host, Stuart Brown. As usual, Scotty Rankin is joining me. Welcome to another week of iRacing entertainment. Scotty, how are you tonight?
Pretty good if I'm going to be honest. The weekend served me absolutely fantastically. Stuart, what about yourself?
Yeah, good, mate. Father's Day for me on Sunday, and I, like most dads, I think, spent the day doing whatever the kids wanted to do, which sort of takes away a little bit from the idea of it being called Father's Day. But no, I have absolutely zero complaints. I was thoroughly spoilt by everyone. I spent some time slow cooking some chicken, which I enjoyed.
I did see that.
Yeah, enjoyed doing that. So didn't turn out all that well, unfortunately, with a couple of rookie mistakes made, but that's okay. We live and we learn. We had a good night, and no, I was very spoiled on Sunday by my wife and my boys. So no complaints from me.
Oh, good to hear. Good to hear. Well, it's another Tuesday night, and for those of us that watch the stream on a regular basis, you'll know that means it's Oz Pro-Am Tuesdays, although you probably could have read that from the title, so there's that as well. Look, we're at one of my favourite circuits again. Originally when I started driving Spa, I didn't like it. I'm gonna be honest, but it's one of those tracks. It's an acquired taste. It's a track that tests all attributes of the car. You need to have good straight line speed. You need to have good drag management. The car needs to have a very slick, clean aero package. You need to have reasonable amounts of downforce. You need to have mechanical grip. You've got to have it all there. Or, alternatively, you need to know where your car is weak. Try to offset some of those weaknesses, maybe. Or try to really accentuate the strengths of your car. Now, if you're a BMW fan, that's going to be in the corners. If you're a Mercedes fan, that's going to be in the straight lines. If you're a Ferrari fan, you get a little bit of both and get to choose what you'd like your poison to be. But then again, if you're our favourite McLaren driver ever, Luke Bergens, yeah, you're going to definitely zero right in on that straight line speed. Stuart?
Yeah, absolutely.
Which car would you like to be in tonight? Well, okay, never mind. I asked the wrong question. I know it's the McLaren.
Oh, yeah, no, look, the Audi's reasonably consistent around here. So if you're looking for something, it depends. For me, it depends really on where people are at in the championship. So that's probably a good segue into having a look at where we're currently sitting in our championship standing. So let's jump into that so that we can get an idea for that one. As I just struggle here. Where are we? There we are. Current championship standings. Now, this is actually the first time I've had a look at this, and we've got Boyd, Lavis, and Kuznetsov in the top three in BMWs. So that would say to you they are the cars that you want to be in. But we've spoken about it before. We'll talk about it again tonight. This is a little bit of playing safety in numbers with the number of BMWs that are, in our field. Always a high likelihood that we're going to end up with a situation like we are. There was a couple of mistakes made in last week's race, which had championship implications, and that's affected that as well. So, what am I looking for here? We've got an hour 45 around this track tonight. So, where am I going to sit? Obviously, I'd love to see Bergens get up in that McLaren, but I would probably have to obviously go with the BMW in terms of who do I think is going to win. In terms of what would I prefer to drive, definitely the Audi around here. I find that it's the most consistent car over a 2-hour stint, or an hour 45 in this case.
Well, we've just gotten to the back end of the season, so balance of power changes in terms of what iRacing set up. I believe it was thrown around, potentially looking at a direct nerf to the Audi. Was the information that I was sort of operating on. I'm not sure how much of a balance of power arrangement we're expecting. It could be something in the order of 5 to 10 kilograms added to the car. The BMW has certainly been on the resurgence lately. We've seen it pretty much exclusively in this in the Oz Pro-Am series as the car to run. Some drivers like a challenge. Some drivers are named Luke Bergens, and other drivers, well, they're not named Luke Bergens. They may not enjoy so much of a challenge. But look, ultimately, each car has its place. I'm a Mercedes. If you were to straight out and out ask me if each of these cars were equal, what would you be driving? Mercedes. Around Spa, I know that I'm very quick in the Mercedes here as well. The stronger engine braking characteristics of the Mercedes really allow you to lift and coast through the middle of the corner, and then get the absolute ultimate acceleration package when you just decide that you want to put that foot to the floor. So look, we're going to see cars, and the benefit of this series is that we do have multiple cars from each manufacturer, so you are going to see those strengths and weaknesses come through. The other thing that we need to be really cognizant of this evening is that the drag and access to clean air is always a priority at Spa. If you're the car leading the pack through the middle of the circuit, that's exactly where you want to be. You run with cooler tires, they're doing less work, so you're not burning through them as much as well. So there's multiple factors to be aware of there. So look, I know that our drivers here tonight are skillful enough to do that. The benefit here is of the Kemmel Straight as we look back up towards Eau Rouge and Redillion, down the Kemmel Straight over the car of Simon Nicholson. That's the absolute best part about Spa, is that everyone gets a little bit of something. You can run behind another car, you have opportunities to overtake them, and it's taxing on the car. It can be done. It can also work in the lead driver's favor. Like, Spa is the ultimate track.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favourite places to drive, particularly these cars as well. So, you're spot on in terms of the drivers definitely are going to be looking to make sure that they manage the fuel window as well. We did see last time we had an enduro that there was a little bit of confusion. Confusion's not the right word. There was some learning to be done in terms of overall strategy management for the drivers. We also had drivers running in pairs in some of our teams, so it is open to the guys to do that if they want to tonight. There's no minimum pit stop requirements. Of course, no one can make an hour 45 around here on no stops, so obviously we're expecting definitely a one-stop strategy. 45 minutes, an hour 45 is a difficult length if the guys get it wrong. And I believe there's no limitations on the fuel capacities of these vehicles either. So there's a lot of things that can play into this one. And it's definitely a matter of making sure that the guys get the call right. There is championship implications out of this if they get it wrong, if they have a bad race. The other thing that we need to touch on as well at this track is it is terribly, terribly easy to get what is called an off-track, or where iRacing dictate that you have exceeded the limits of the track, and that would invalidate a lap. Now, we're in the qualifying stages of this. We've got around about 10 minutes to go. And I can see on screen we've already had 1, 2, 3 drivers rack up in excess of 5 points already. That means that they've done 5 points over 3 laps, and those lap times will not count for qualifying. So it's a matter, again, we've spoken about it in the past, of getting a banking lap in and making sure that you don't end up qualifying at the back of the field and having to drive your way through the pack. I can see at the moment that Trent Lavis doesn't have a registered qualifying time as yet, neither does Matty Carleone. And they're two of the drivers that we expect to see run up towards the front of this field. So race management, you've got to get out. You don't want to be caught up with all of the guys that are going to be battling to try and make their way around here. It's a challenging start to the lap, particularly at this part of the track that we're just going through on board with Simon Nicholson now. So you really want to make sure that you're in control of your own destiny to a certain extent.
Yeah, and look, with tonight's race and the way that it is all set up, obviously being that extended both qualifying and race time period for the endurance race, you've got the option to go out early, stick your banker in, have a go at a quick lap, come back in, fresh set of tyres, fill back up a little bit on fuel, go out, warm the tyres up, get to your cycle point, and then go for it again, and not really be hurt by that. Now, from my preparation for the Spa of Spa 24 hours earlier this year, I can tell you that 8 minutes, which is what a regular session, an official session on iRacing would be running for their qualifying time, you sort of had enough room for one error on your out lap, and that was it. Once you got started on your flying laps, you were sort of locked in. You didn't really have a second chance to go out. 20 minutes for qualifying. Completely different ball game. You know, there's enough time there for nearly to have 3 cracks potentially at qualifying if you do injure the car very early on in one of those stints, whether it's on the out lap, on the first time lap, you know. So the way the drivers will handle that will be differently. So interesting to note out of that is that Jack Boyd is on his 4th lap at this point in time, currently sitting in P4. That's not where he's used to starting proceedings.
No, but you know he's going to be quick. And I didn't see who he was teamed up with for tonight. So if he is driving by himself, which I may think that he might be doing. So, you know, we've just got to bear that in mind that tonight there is going to be driver changes. So potentially with some of our faster guys. And that obviously opens them up as well to making sure that the co-driver does the job tonight too. So plenty to look forward to in the second of our Enduros here with the Oz Pro-Am Sim Series, as we're seeing a new looking livery on that car there. I actually haven't picked up who that is. That's Hayden Jericho there in the number 16. No, that's not him that we're on board with. Who's in that number 16? No, 16 place. I'm right. It is Hayden Jericho. So in a new Castrol livery on that car, looking very smart indeed. We've made a few changes to the way the stream operates as well, so you'll see that we've got the chat now finally displaying up on the page. We've made the racing a little bit bigger and closer, and we've been working to try and resolve our issue of not coming to you in a higher definition, or the definition limits on the streams that we're sending out. And we've unfortunately diagnosed the problem, and it looks like it's actually, with COVID, we are broadcasting from home, and it looks like the upload speed of my home internet on the NBN is not good enough to increase that quality, unfortunately. So apologies for that. Obviously, at the moment, we're stuck in with what we've got, and I'll speak to Telstra, which will be a thoroughly tooth-pulling exercise tomorrow, to see if there's anything that can be done about it. But at this stage, we're a little bit limited in the tubes and how they work. We don't have that problem when we broadcast from the studio. So at least there's an answer there.
There is, and the end is inside. Well,
maybe.
Inside.
Maybe there's an end at some stage, and it may be Christmas. But look, let's keep it upbeat, and we've got 6 minutes to go here, so we're starting to get down to, as you mentioned, that stage of the qualifying session where you expect to see, as there are a number of guys in the pits, getting fresh tyres on so that they can then come out and have a final crack at this qualifying session and see how far up the grid they can get, as we're on board again with Simon Nicholson currently sitting in 2nd place.
Brady Myers might be done. He's in the lane at this point in time, and he has been there for 7.5 minutes. So I would say he set that time early, went, yep, cool, that's enough, and he's gotten up. I mean, it's an hour and 45 minutes, right? When you add in practice and qualifying, of which takes up effectively another hour of the race, it's 2 hours and 45 minutes. So if he's gotten up, decided to go and grab dinner, decided to go and refresh himself, relieve himself, potentially take a shower, All of these things are actually quite good for your concentration. There's a couple things. So I ended up having a quick chat to my psychologist before I actually started getting into endurance racing. A couple things she mentioned to me. One, don't have a big meal before a race. Why? What happens is your blood sugar actually dips immediately after a large meal whilst you're processing it. So that's a huge dip in concentration. Factor number two, make your room cool. Don't make it cold. Too cold, and you're going to start losing focus and worry about being warming yourself up. What actually happens in a race car? Those things get hot. Drivers start to lose concentration. We all start to get a little bit weary, a little bit dozy, shall we say, with a warmer room. So keep your sim room as cool as possible without being uncomfortable. It will help generate a little bit of extra focus, because what happens is our bodies naturally want to start warming up again, which means that we get the blood flowing just a little bit quicker. So that's another key tip. Number three, be cognizant of your thoughts. Make sure that you're thinking about braking marker, entry, apex, exit. Slow it down. You know, focus on the next corner ahead of you. Have a generic plan in the back of your mind, sure, for the race as a whole, but focus on that next corner. Then when you say coming down from La Source into Eau Rouge up through Rodillion, then onto the Kemmel Straight, obviously not in the middle of Eau Rouge and Rodillion. That's the worst time to be thinking about anything that's not the race circuit and the drivers around you. But when you're on the Kemmel Straight and the rundown from La Source, those are the best possible times to be thinking about what's my goal right now, what's my position in the race, what am I after, when am I thinking about pit stopping, is there an alteration to that strategy? So those are the times that you're looking for. Now, I did touch on briefly thinking about strategy. These drivers will not be coming in here tonight without a strategy in the back of their head. They will have a generic overview of when they want to pit, what the race system and what the race conditions that will lead them to go into a stop will be. Qualifying right now, yeah, sure, it's all action stations, it's all go ahead, you know, everything's focused in on that, but maybe taking a break at the back end of that session, doing something different, is probably the best thing you can possibly do. We've seen it, any Australians in here would know that it's quite often said to us, stop, revive, survive, every 2 hours. That's about when we start losing concentration. Guess how long our race is.
Yeah, I mean, and everyone has a different way of getting into that mindset that you're talking about. So for me, it's music, and you know, you see a lot of the professional race drivers do the same thing. It's getting into your own headspace so that you're ready to go. So, having said all that, Brady Myers back out on track, and has just about started. In fact, just starting now. What will be his final run, just to protect his lead at the top here, to make sure that he does qualify on pole. So we'll stick with him. We're looking for green or ideally purple sectors for people. Jack Boyd has done a purple second sector here, so he's on a flying lap. He's got 2/10 in round terms to make up to challenge for pole position on this one. Expect him to give that a red hot crack. I was just looking there. Glenn Boyd last week did a fantastic job to put the sister car to this one on 4th position on the grid. So he's got a little bit of work to do here. I don't think he's going to go out again, as we see Jack Boyd lose control of the BMW there, and that will probably mean he is no good for another lap, so he'll probably end up finishing in second. Simon Nicholson still out on track. He was sitting second for quite some time, so we'll stick on board with him as he makes his way around. He's nearly 3/4 of the way through the lap here, just coming out and around back to he's about to get towards the back end of the track around the back straight. This is a really cool part of the track. If you get it right, you've got to really set your lap up from here. If you don't get out of this part quickly enough, then you lose a lot of momentum coming down this long back straight before you head up into the bus stop at the top end of the back straight on the track. You can just see number 3 there on the map. On the right hand side of your screen is who we are on board with at the moment. It's really...
Righto, so where's our lap times coming in? Myers is on a flyer. He's just done a purple second sector. He's coming around to finish his lap. Jeff Connell's just about to come across the line as well with 5 seconds left in the session, so there's a potential for another lap from him.
So Nicholson does a 2:19.25 there, his fastest lap. He's only 0.15 off Jack Boyd in second, but that is the end of his session. And equally, Jeff Connell there doing his fastest lap of qualifying with a 19.38. So that early to mid-19s is where a majority of the track is at, as qualifying there comes to an end. We've still got a few out here. We're just on board Miles Bond as he moves up into the top 10, qualifying 7th with that lap. Ian McMahon still finishing his last venture around the circuit. I don't know that he's going to get that done in time. We'll stick with him here. Brady McHugh also still out on track. No, Brady McHugh's also finished his lap. So Ian McMahon, the only one left who can impact the way the top of this board looks, and sitting in 10th at the moment. So green sectors for him. He is on his way to improving this lap. Just looking there, number 17 out on track still. I hadn't seen that there. Brady Buchanan, we're just going to jump on board with him as he comes around to finish his lap now. Down in the slowest part of the track, and he's actually taking it into pit lane there, aborting the lap in the Charlie the Unicorn sponsored BMW. Oh, Charlie.
I'll tell you what, nothing better than a good pop culture reference on a car.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not sure that McMahon's going to get this lap finished.
I can tell you there's 1 minute and 50 seconds left in the session, so he's got more than enough time.
He's going to get it? Okay. No, it depends on how much longer they leave. He's got one green sector here, so it's just down to these other sectors, which I can tell you are close. So I think he will make up some difference here. He might move himself up into 9th. In fact, he'll probably jump up into 7th if he's got it right. He has, and he jumps into 8th, just shy of Miles Bond's last flying lap there. So good improvement from Ian to jump up into 8th place as we end qualifying for the second of the Enduros. Looking forward to this one. Love the track, love the cars. It's going to be a good race. So we'll jump into the grid once that is available for us and go from there. We've got to touch on the hard charger award as well. We might quickly jump into that to have a look at who needs to be kept an eye on. Sam Lehman, Matty Gray, Daniel Webster, Steve Bartholomew, and Frank Hodak. Frank Hodak doing a great job last week. You can see there he was up 11 spots during that race. We didn't see any of the really large gains we've seen early in the season, those 20 to 25 spot gains. 25 is still the record. So I wonder if anyone can do that today. We've got Matty Carleone at the back there. He may still be having issues with his iRacing equipment. He was last week. Looking at that, Matty Gray down the back, and Frank Hodak down towards the back of the field as well. So I'm going to put my bickies on him to make a jump up the field. He did a great job last week in doing that as well. And of course, that one is brought to us by Peninsula Transfers. If you're needing to get to the airport, Peninsula Transfers, when we can reopen and get back to travelling, are the place to go if you don't want to have all the hassle of trying to park your car in long-term car parking and getting all your luggage out and trying to catch the bus from the long-term car park. No, none of that rubbish. Peninsula Transfers is the way to go if you're looking for a stress-free way to begin or end your holiday. As the grid comes up on the screen here, Scotty, I'll throw it over to you, mate.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's the first time for a...
I've really just dropped you in it there, sorry.
You have, I was like, Stuart's got this, I can get up, I'm just finished dinner, I can wash my hands, and you're like, well, nope, I'm going to throw you in it. As soon as I walk away from my computer...
You go and do that,
I'm done, I'm back
You're
now.
back,
Good,
okay,
good.
alright, good.
So, someone, for the first time in a few weeks, has managed to unseat Jack Boyd at the top of the order. That will be Brady Myers in the 22 BMW. So congratulations to Brady Myers taking out the pole position award for this evening. Jack Boyd, sort of starting one position further forward, will join him on the other side of the front row this evening. Simon Nicholson, Jeff Connell, your second row, and the first of the non-BMWs is going to be Luke Bergens from the third row, position number 5. Trent Laves in the 69 BMW is P6. Miles Bond is going to be P7. Ian McMahon with that phenomenal late lap right at the close of the session is going to be P8. Rick Kuznetsov and Sam Lehman round out your top 10 Positions 11 and 12, Brady McHugh, Glenn Boyd in the second of the Boyd Racing cars. Position 13, 14, Glenn Firth, Daniel Webster. Webster probably starting a little bit further back than he would have liked this evening. Adam Bolton and Sam Thurtell are going to come to you from the 8th row of our grid. 9th row is Brady Buchanan, Stephen Bartholomew. First of the Fords this evening, Hayden Jericho and Frank Hodak off the 10th row of the grid. Dwayne Voss and Rodney Hobbs, 21 and 22 on your grid. Matt Gray and Matty Cartiglione are currently 23 and 24. Whether or not Matty Cartiglione is actually going to be assisting with some of the administration this evening, and Gaderick and Jackson as well. So it looks like Jackson didn't actually clock in a lap, but will be starting the race. So I would put Matty Cartiglione and Dennis Gaderick as our admins for this evening.
Absolutely, and if we might end up trying to grab Matty at some stage here, as you're going to leave it up to me. I'll get the credit and get the race underway tonight. So what we're looking out here for really is once the cars hopefully navigate their way up and down the straight, that last chicane at the end of the straight there before we head round into the top end of the circuit is really going to be where there's going to be the challenges. So looking for a nice clean exit out of this corner as the drivers all form up, and then it's really going to be about making sure that you maximise your run up the hill. So we will see how this goes. We're about to get away here, waiting for the lights to go green. There it is. Brady Myers off and running. Jack Boyd, Jeff Connell with a good start up on Nicholson. We've got Bergens, Lavis and Miles Bond there as everyone's just trying to make sure they file the way through here. They're on cold tyres. That's going to be the challenge, is getting the cars through this part of the track. Where it looks like we've had a very clean start here. A really good start from all of the drivers. Well done as we head up towards what is the first of the big braking zones on cold tyres. This is going to be where the test is. Everyone needs to make sure they get the car pulled up. Watch out for cars running through here if they haven't managed to do that. Just try and stick with the pack as we get through here. Try and make it a little bit easier to see. It looks like everyone's made a really cracking start here. Well done to the drivers as they're getting through. We're on board with Daniel Webster as we head down into the off-camber right-hander. Again, very, very good opportunity to pass here, but it's very easy to over-rotate the car and end up off in the sand trap. Still here with Rodney Hobbs there running a little bit wide. Brady Myers is in control of this one as we head down in to one of the more difficult parts of the track. If you get it wrong, it is game over down there up against the tyre wall. So you've got to keep the car turned in and get it done as we head through under the Allianz signs. Brady Myers doing a fantastic job here. We've really had no incidents at all to speak of at the start of this one. And I'm going to say I'm kind of surprised, not because of the quality of the drivers, but it is a difficult place to get around the first lap on cold tyres, particularly in a fixed setup race like this one with the vehicles. So just noting there's a couple of cars that are already starting to rack up some off tracks as we see. I believe is that Miles Bond there running wide just in the background of the picture. Heading through here.
Tell you who's actually on the move, Stuart, on this first lap. Actually, a fair few off-tracks starting to come through. Luke Bergens has picked himself up 3 on that opening lap. And this is actually the section here coming through.
Oh, here we go. Oh, where it is. There it is there. Miles Bond on cold tyres. Unfortunately, he will get a trip through pit lane. For that one, I would rest assured, unfortunately. And that has turned Brady McHugh around. So expect to see that call out if you can have a listen for that one. As out-braking himself definitely there on cold tyres.
Look, I mean, you've just got to... It's an endurance race. It's not a sprint race, guys. Like,
no,
you got to be aware of that. And unfortunately, I couldn't even see who that was that made the move.
It was Miles Bond, and to be brutally fair, Miles is an experienced operator who's just made a mistake there. So,
yeah.
Cold tyres just slightly out-braked himself on the inside line there. So... he'll unfortunately pay the penalty for that, I imagine, and get a trip through pit lane.
Tell you what, Luke Bergens on the move, trying to get it done around the outside of Nicholson here. Manages to grab, Jeff Connell, not Nicholson, manages to grab the spot. He is absolutely flying. That's where he's got to get the moves done tonight. It's down the Camel Straight into the chicane that follows. Manages to do that nicely, so he'll try and set himself the task of tagging onto the rear end of Simon Nicholson over the coming laps. little bit of an advantage here is that he's going to have a little bit cleaner air coming down towards the double left-handers. Such a fast part of the circuit. You mentioned it. You get it wrong. Look, if you get it really wrong, you end up in the tire barrier. If you get it wrong, you're going to grab yourself a 1x. That is probably, I think, one of the riskier aspects to racing this evening. We only have a DQ limit of 25 incident points. They will receive a drive-through penalty at the limit of 20. Now, I can give you an update as well. Miles Bond has been given a black flag, so we'll be seeing him come through to serve a stop-and-go penalty for that incident on lap number 1.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's the right call. So it's unbelievably, well, not unbelievably, sorry, it's a pretty small limit, which I must say I kind of like. So 20 incident points around this place is very easy to rack up if you're pushing and having to jostle and contest for position. So plays right into what we were talking about earlier about making sure that you get your qualifying run right, so you can run your own race and not have to risk potentially running wide or doing those things. So really important there. Bergen's, as you say, already appears to have knocked up 5 incident points, and that could be the difference for him as we get to the tail end of this race, with Brady Myers having none, Boyd 1, and Nicholson 1 as well. So that having to push to get up through the grid, using all of the track, maybe just dropping a wheel wide, and that can come back to haunt you a little later in the race.
Yep, so a couple cars that are way down the field at this point in time is Glenn Firth and Matt Gray. Both of them have opted to come down pit lane. I'm not 100% sure why that is, unless they've picked up damage and they've decided to come in for their quick repairs. A couple drivers through pit lane as well.
Are we using... So we're using the new pit lane here, not the full endurance length pit lane. So these guys down into going around. That's a real dangerous corner there. I know it's difficult to see, but it's a tight right-hander, and many drivers.
See the gate there on the inside of that corner? You can actually flip the car on that. Multiple drivers during the endurance events here utilize that as well. So just a warning to the drivers: stay away from that one.
It's easy to do, and many drivers have been brought undone cruising through there on fresh tyres, having pit in the old pit lane section, and ending up binning it on the wall as they're trying to leave pit lane. So drivers will have to be careful there as well. We're on board now with Jeff Connell, who has dropped off a little bit off the back of Luke Bergens, who's now up to 7 incident points already. Jeff Connell up to 5 himself. So I'm hoping they're actually accurate. There was some weird explanation SDK gave me about how that actually works. And it's about the cars and yada, yada, yada. Anyway, we'll keep an eye on it and certainly get a notification if the drivers have to serve a pit lane penalty. As Brady McHugh has got damage. Looks like he's trying to reverse that into the garage himself. I'm not sure that he actually needed to do that. He could have just pulled up there, but I don't know if he's parking that one for the night, but obviously has some damage there. We've got... jump on board now with my man Frank Hodak. He is up 3 spots so far. Biggest mover so far is Hayden Jackson. He's up 11 spots from the start. Was he the one who chose not to qualify?
Hayden Jackson? Yeah, I believe so. I believe he was the one starting right at the rear of the field. It was either Jackson or Jericho. I feel like it's Jackson.
Well, given he's up 11 spots, that plays into that one as Miles Bond now starts to make his way through pit lane to serve that drive-through penalty. And he'll get back out and start making his way back up the track. Trent Lavis has also had a good start. He only held his position here, but he's in clean air now. And that means that he's going to be able to control the journey that he goes on for the next 1 hour and 37 minutes as we make our way around Spa here for... It's not the second round, but the second of our enduro races with the Oz Pro-Am Sim Series here, brought to you by HJ Plant Repairs. And, of course, our glorious sponsors too, Virtual Motorsport Mentor and AFTERSHOCK PC, as well as Ferguson Group Media.
So just taking a quick look through, Lavas is normally not that far off the pace. I'm actually wondering whether or not he's trying to conserve tyres.
Could be.
Look, these drivers are good enough that they might be able to double stint the tyres. Now that's a 30 seconds-ish wiped out of your pit stop. So he's got 30 seconds over, if that is his plan, of course, to sort of let go over the duration of the race, though. But he's got to manage that. It's not about pace management so much as it is about gap management. Just having that little switch in your head go, all right, I'm letting these guys get a little bit too far away. Let's reel them in a little bit, wait for their tires to burn off a little bit more, and then match their pace once again. So I just hold that in the back of your mind. I'm going to stick to the usual wisdom of GT3 cars should take tyres at every stop, but don't count that one out from Trent Lavis.
Well, it's 3:30 in the afternoon simulator time. It's 34 degrees on-track temperature. You know, a brave person would be it to not change tyres, I think, during the pit stop. Particularly, obviously, if they're changing drivers, it's a no-brainer to change tyres because of the time for the driver swap. So let's see how that plays out. But I can't see any of the drivers not doing a tyre swap. But I've been definitely proven wrong in the past on multiple occasions, particularly in the AAE series. Yeah, anything's possible tonight.
Look, and something that just sort of comes back to mind is, do you remember the NZSR Enduro, whereby I think it was David Sanford's co-driver, they opted to not change tyres, and he was running on tyres with 5% left, I think, right at the end of the race, and they did a driver swap. So, again, I'm going to lean towards the side of caution. It's a long, long race, and there's some things that you just rather guarantee. And tyre safety, tyre grip, you know, tyre wear is one of those things that... But again, look, it's an option. And I like the fact that the drivers may potentially have an option. Remember, temperature is going to be on its way down. It's not going to get super cold or anything down into the very low 20s, but I'd say by the end of the race, we might be looking at 26, 27 degrees Celsius in terms of track temperature.
Yeah, I think you'd be right. So not in those golden territories that we try to look for track temperature and track conditions. So, you know, as I said, I think it's going to be a brave man.
Oh yeah, you know, that's something I thoroughly agree with. Myers tried to get away nice and early, but that gap has actually started to settle and transfer back into Jack Boyd's favour as well. So it looks like we're starting to get a couple of little battle packs form within the top 5. You've got Myers and Boyd, Gap, Simon Nicholson and Luke Bergen, so you can actually see it play out on the screen. But the other thing that's really, really interesting for me is you actually watch this gap develop. Throughout the first portion of the lap, Jack actually seems really, really quick, like he's running a lower, and I'm going to say 1 degree on rear wing angle difference.
Now remember, this is a fixed setup category, so...
that's what it is, okay.
So maybe it just suits his driving style a little bit better, that he that part of the track is just stronger for him. As Luke Bergen's there up to 12 incident points, if this is correct. So might just jump on board with Luke and just see if we can pick up if that is registering correctly, because that is a extraordinarily high level of incident points to be trying to carry for the next hour and a half around this track. And if he ended up DQing tonight, that would have an impact definitely on his championship standings, as Connell gets right up on the back of him. Nicholson, I think, holding him up, if we were being brutal about it. Bergen's last lap around was basically a 2-minute 20 flat. Nicholson...
Was that a light flash?
20.3. It probably could be.
I think Bergens might have just given him the hurry on with the light flash there. I'd say you're going to see a move down here at the back end of the Camel Straight. He's going to pull out of the draft. He is now on the outside lane, so Bergens needs to make it stick around the outside. But look at that, he's got it done before they get to the braking zone.
Done a great job there. Done a great
job. Did he pick up another incident point? I think he just picked up another one on the corner entry there as well, to the chicane. So he is just continuing to climb in terms of incident points.
So let's, thanks very much for the follow there, Martin. So let's stick on board with him. I mean, he's charging through. He's actually the quickest man on the track at the moment. And Jeff Connell actually, they're almost trading lap for lap in terms of quick lap time. So he's got some pace in that McLaren. So we'll stick on board with this battle here. Still close at the front, and Bergen's trying to join onto the back of the lead pack.
So there's a couple cases to be said for lap pace right now. I think Boyd is actually underdriving the car. I think this is actually
a ploy, a strategy.
No, there's a reason for it. So if you have a look at, remember how I was saying where the gap was sort of seesawing throughout the lap?
Mm-hmm.
The sections where he's fastest, he's prioritizing a super strong exit off onto the Camel Straight. He also would be prioritizing a super strong exit right here as we head up towards Blanchimont. Now, what he's going to do through that is the high load corners, he's actually really backing off on the car and not overdriving it. So a couple of things he's going to be meant. So tire life, obviously, very, very important that he's managing tire life in an hour and 45-minute race. But additionally, tire temperatures, which at this such an early stage within the tire's life, it's actually far more important right now to be managing the temperatures, because if you can keep your temperatures down, you're not having to input as much into the car. And then what ends up happening is if you heat the tires up just above their sort of Goldilocks zone for tire temperatures, you start putting more input into the car to get the same sort of grip and the same sort of response, which just exacerbates the problem. So I don't mind this from Boyd. I think he's pretty casual and happy to just sort of run back here, and he could be fuel saving as well.
I was going to say, I mean, we're obviously looking at the bits in the track where he's strongest. There are also the bits in the track where he's going to get the benefit of the draft the most as we watch him close up there. The difficulty for him now, however, is he needs to make a decision whether or not he lets Bergens go by and have that battle with Myers himself. As you can see there, Bergens right up on the back of him here. So he doesn't want to wreck his own race strategy so that he can participate in this with an hour and a half to go. When Bergens may well be quicker, and he's just let him through there on the inside. I think that's a smart move by him. If he is indeed trying to conserve, he doesn't need to get caught up in a battle with Bergens. It's not really going to benefit his strategy.
No, and the other thing that might be of note as well, Bergens can get up onto the rear end of Myers and just sort of push him. Well, then Myers and Bergens are both going to be overworking their tires, so Boyd could just be sitting there and just playing the watch and wait card for the meantime as well. So, look, we're not going to know more for another 45 minutes or so until these guys start to look at potentially their first stops and when those will come in. So, it wouldn't surprise me to see everybody else around Luke Bergens saving fuel, and he's deciding that he wants to push it a little bit. And I'm not talking much fuel either. I'm talking like people are trying to save 0.1, 0.2 liters a lap, which isn't lots either. So. Then again, Bergens could just be quick.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's the only McLaren there, so maybe it suits the track and the car based on the setup that they put together for that one. So, as you say, only time will tell. But again, Brady Myers here getting a little bit further away. I'm just keeping a really close eye on these off tracks just to see if I can make sure that it's actually accurate. So, I'll just see here when he gets the exit from the corner. He's done that one well, so no off-track registering there as it should be, but it's indicating he's 16 in 8 laps. That means, based on that he'll be out of the race by around lap 13 or 14, so let's hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, the other thing, I mean, he could be pushing. He could be just throwing caution to the wind right now and just saying, hey, I've got to go for this. I've got to find clean track. The other thing that plays into mind, I actually don't know how fuel efficient the McLaren is. I don't know whether it absolutely burns through the fuel. So he's just picked up another one there, and that's coming off of the La Source section of the Camel Straight and into Eau Rouge.
He's going to make a move here. He's going to make a move. He's going to try and get into the lead of this race, and he's going to get it done easily. That McLaren in a straight line is a weapon, particularly obviously it gets the benefit of the draft, but he was ages away as they approached the crest of the hill, and he's just used the draft and eaten up the gap. So a big advantage there for that, as we now have the McLaren in the lead of the race. I don't think we've said that yet this year, so not something that I'm too disappointed in saying, mind you.
Well, I'll ask him again later on whether or not Zach Brown said something to him, go out and get me a race win and we'll talk. So whether or not he's trying to do that and he's burning up the incident points just to get to the lead of the race, who knows? So look, all power to him. Like, here's the thing about Luke Bergens. Back when I started commentating with you, I honestly think he was a lot further down. We're talking 9th, 10th. I think he's done a lot of work. He progressively has been further and further up the running order. So he's put some work in. And Myers and Boyd, well, they're no slouches. And he's just completely and utterly driven around them. So I'm kind of curious where this pace was in qualifying.
Well, and about maybe he just didn't get a clean run. You know, maybe with the track rubbering up and the temperatures, it's just suiting the car a little bit. So yeah, you know, it is what it is. One of the mysteries of motorsport we can't explain sometimes how cars generate power. As we've had Brady Myers there pick up an off track. He's now up to 5. Just cycling through the list. Jeff Connell 13, and we've also got Hayden Jackson, who's been our man making his way through the pack. He's on 10. A lot of the rest of our drivers basically all in the single digits, other than Hayden Jericho, who's a lap down now, unfortunately. So
that's a tough thing to do as well, managing incident points, because you're, oh my god, 1 second a lap faster than Myers? That's how quick Bergens was on that last lap. 1 second a lap difference. So unless Myers has gotten, well, he made the mistake coming through Blanchemont and was wide there, but now he's really vulnerable to Boyd. Now, this time by, he will actually have the assistance of the draft in a straight line, so Myers will be able to get a little bit more defensive, but he's going to have 2 cars worth of benefit. Will Jack Boyd was looking to think about getting outside the draft. He makes the move there now. So again, I'm wondering if Myers maybe went too hard too early, and now we're seeing, alternatively, this could be Boyd saying, hey, I let Bergens get through, now I've got to lift my pace and go after him.
yeah, well, we will find out as this progresses. We're an hour 25 to go in this enduro. Luke Bergens picks up another incident point. He's up to 18 now, so we'll know in 2 short incident points' time whether or not that is accurate or not if he has to serve a drive-through. I definitely hope it's actually inaccurate, because we want our best drivers out on the track competing. So this lead pack here, we've got 5 cars, covered by just around 2 seconds between Luke Bergens right back to Jeff Connell. And then looking back down the pack, we've got some other battles that I want to jump on and discuss. We've got Glenn Boyd, which we'll jump on with now, because I think this is pretty settled for a little bit here. Glenn Boyd is under attack from Stephen Bartholomew. He's a sister car to Jack Boyd there. He's up 3 positions. Steve Bartholomew, the fastest of the Fords, up 8 positions. And did notice as well, we've got Brad Clink potentially missing tonight. I don't know if you can jump in and see if he is driving with Bartholomew, but they'll make a good pairing if he is. So that car probably the rank outsider for a potential win, or certainly a top 5 finish, I reckon, with that pairing. The lap pace of that car is reasonably consistent. They're running in the mid 220s, so there or thereabouts, and certainly faster than some of the cars in front of them. So we'll keep an eye on Bartholomew as he continues to apply pressure and gain on the back of Glenn Boyd in 9th.
I can't see Brad Clink listed anywhere.
That's a shame. Brad obviously good around here and good in that GT, so we'll see.
May have had something come up,
Of course.
unfortunately.
Life does get in the way. Ian McMahon's another one who's been quite consistent that we haven't spoken much about tonight. He is maintained his spot as well, like Trent Lavis in front of him, sitting there in 8th. So doing a good job with that last lap qualifying effort to get into 8th position.
Can we quickly jump down the order and have a look at... Obviously, Miles Bond is massively out of order. Glenn Firth has... also, he must have driven through pit lane.
Yeah, he's had a pit lane penalty there.
Number 1, and actually, I do remember seeing that through chat. No.
So yeah, Firth unfortunately had an early drive through there, as well as Miles Bond did. So, but Miles here lapping at 222, stuck a little bit, I think, in some traffic as well. So we'll keep an eye on him. He will make his way back up the field, I have no doubt. Hayden Jackson doing a great job talking about people making their way up the field. He's up 11 positions. And I just, if you can, Scotty, want to keep an ear out in the drivers' chat. Luke Bergen's now on 19 off tracks according to our data. So he is terribly close to potentially getting a drive-through if that is correct. And I would love to know if it is. Yeah, well, you'd hope it is. And if it isn't, he can slow down a little bit. Like, obviously the pressure's on him, but he needs to be conservative to a point. Let's see if we stick on board with him here for a minute. He'll get 3 laps to serve it if he does get it. It doesn't run wide.
He was close
I was going to say, it doesn't run wide there. He keeps 2 on the black stuff, which helps. The other really easy one to pick one up is just on the exit here of running real wide onto that green, and it hasn't. He's kept it clean as well. So we'll just stick with him here and try and work that out.
I'll tell you what. Just before Eau Rouge here, there's a little bit of track on the left-hand side that you can use, but a lot that you can't use. If you touch the grass in the slightest, you have definitely gotten yourself a 1x. If you are right near it, you can pick yourself up one.
And obviously on the exit here.
There. Nice.
Nah, that's
right
all
across
perfect.
The top of Eau Rouge and Rodillion. Yeah, that's about as much as you can use. So that's driven picture perfectly from Bergen's.
And if you are in the chat, or sorry, if you are watching tonight, drop into the chat and let us know where you're watching from, and what you're enjoying seeing about this race at Spa. If there's anyone you want us to have a look at, jumping in here as a fan or something like that, then do let us know. We're more than happy to give you coverage where you would like to see it on FGM ECast.
It's a long race. We do have the opportunity to sort of drift right through the field. So battle pack at the front is obviously Bergens, Boyd, Myers, Nicholson, and Connell. None of them really able to make a difference. Bergens trying to push away from them, but hasn't really been able to make much in terms of inroads yet. Then there's a gap of pushing towards 8.5 seconds back to Trent Laves, another nearly 4 seconds back to Kuznetsov, and then 2 and a bit seconds to drifters Ian McMahon. And then everyone's basically somewhere between 1 and 4 seconds, with the difference being from Sam Thurtell back to Brady Buchanan. So, and then Hodak back to Miles Bond as well. So right throughout the field, everyone's not necessarily lapping quick and slow enough that there's a big margin to the car in front. And I reckon towards, let's say about 20 minutes time, we're going to start to see a few battles sort of start to form right throughout the field.
There it is. That's 20 off tracks. So we'll just
Blanchimont too.
Yeah, so we'll just said these 2 sections of the track are where it's easy to get one done. We've had a question from Martin Crisp just in relation to the fuel capacity of the BMW, and I'm quite happy to be corrected if I'm wrong here, but I think it's 99 litres.
No, it's 115.
Oh, it's 115 litres. Okay, beautiful. So 115 litres there for you, Martin. So certainly tyres and fuel are the 2 things that we think they're going to need to take. It'll be brave for someone not to take tyres, but they certainly won't get through this race on 1 tank of fuel.
Look, if you were somebody in Trent Laves' position, I mean, I'd rather see him have a go. You know, asking for Simon, that's Nicholson?
I hope not.
I hope Nicholson knows how much fuel is in the thing. Look, I mean, yeah, like I said, probably the car that'll have a crack is Laves. If you have a look at where he is in terms of the road, he's, you know, reasonably paced to the group behind him. There's about 4 cars that are all sort of within a second and a half of each other, just sort of behind him. And then there's this 8-second gap forward. So he's really in the right spot for me to have a crack at that strategy, which is what I said at the outset too, actually. So, I don't know, it's interesting. We're stuck, as endurance races go, this is pretty bog standard in terms of pace and those sorts of things, and where the drivers are looking like they're at. So, I don't know, somebody's around. So we've just lost someone in the top 5.
It was Bergens.
No way.
It was Bergens. So, and he got 2 off track there, which makes sense for losing control. So I'm gonna suggest that's going to be accurate. He is going to need to do a drive through. Unfortunately, just tried to confirm it with race control as well while you were taking the audience through those potential strategies. So I'm just waiting on a call back from that. So excuse me while I play with the chat a little bit live on the thing. I normally wouldn't do that, but it is a new setup. I'm just making sure that the size of it's okay, as one of the messages came up and took over half the screen. We don't want that. So Luke Bergen's here. We'll just see if he pulls into pit lane this time around. I think he may do. And unfortunately for him, 27 minutes into this race, nearly 28 minutes into this race, not going to be long enough for him to one-stop it to the end. And he goes around again. So maybe
definitely wrong.
Maybe it's wrong. we'll see what the stewards say when they get back to me, if they or when they do.
Spa's one of those tricky tracks as well. Like, I wouldn't. The way that our software works, it wouldn't surprise me if it's taking a reading off our spectator view, and the spectator view is not seeing whether it's an individual sort of it's going through and measuring each car. And it wouldn't surprise me if that's different to what the drivers are seeing, which is what the incident points are actually based off, is individual incident points and how they're earned. So it wouldn't surprise me if that's actually wrong.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Really knows how to maximize the pace as well.
Yeah, I think you might be right, actually. So, I did notice as well while we're going through that, Steve Bartholomew has got through on Glenn Boyd, so he's now up into 9th place, up 9 spots from his qualifying position. So continues to press on and still lapping at the same pace or quicker as every car in front of him, up to Luke Bergen's in 5th. So expect him to continue his charge up the grid if he can keep the consistency going.
I wonder whether or not... So the Fords generally are... look, the drivers who do end up deciding to go with one of these alternative cars, there's
Crazy.
a reason most people don't do it.
Crazy.
Crazy. Look, yeah, look, that's one of them. But the reason that he may be going towards the Ford is the Fords tend to be better on fuel.
Yes.
And fuel burn strategy, but worse on tires. Now, if you were going to tell me which one would you prefer to have, most cases I'm going to lean towards let's look after the tires a little bit better because that allows me to manage the pace. But I don't know. Sometimes, look, I mean, oh my god. I've had a few Americans try to convince me to run endurance races with them, and all they ever talk about is running the Ford, so...
Yeah, but you can understand why. We've all seen Ford versus Ferrari. I mean, it's got that nostalgia attachment to it, about, dominating Ferrari and all that sort of stuff. So I can sort of understand why they want to do it, but it's... When we were doing the driving testing for the AEE, it was the worst car that I've ever driven. So I certainly celebrate but also commiserate for anyone that decides to drive it. It is challenging.
It's just so long, and it doesn't rotate well through the corners.
No, but when it was designed, it was obviously designed, not this particular model, but it was obviously designed to just blow the doors off people with power, because at the time, that's where it was at, so...
I mean, Le Mans, like, let's be real, Le Mans has just got too many straights, and you're spending so much of the lap at full throttle that all of a sudden you pull up to the corners and you go, oh yeah, I gotta stop.
I know that it could cause riots, but I think that Le Mans is probably one of the most boring tracks in the world. It's like the international version of Calder Park. It's just two squirts and a couple of squiggles, and that's it.
If you could just sort of attach the end of the first section of the track to the back before the start of the Porsche curves, you'd actually have a really cool circuit. Unfortunately, they are so far distant, you kind of can't.
No.
There's no good way to shorten the circuit up without chopping off so much of the circuit that it's no longer the same sort of... They do it with I think it's the club circuit, but it just, you miss out on so much of the track that it's just, you don't get the Porsche curves, you don't get, any of that sort of good stuff, and you come back out pretty much where pit lane entry is, and, gross. Really not a great circuit. Because then you chop out, like, basically the whole reason to be going to Le Mans, like, so...
Nighttime racing. It's the only reason to go to Le Mans is nighttime racing. So, but anyway, look, fortunately we're not there. Spa, on the other hand, fantastic track, one of my favourites. So, I'm glad we're where we're at. So, we've jumped on board here as well with Rick Kuznetsov. He is up 2 spots, currently sitting 3rd in the championship, and he is doing a good job here again tonight to try and just progress his cause that little bit further. Trent Laves just in front of him, of course. Also a contender for the championship, but of course they need to cater for that man, Jack Boyd, currently leading the race.
Couple drivers actually in pit lane at this point in time. We've got Nicholson, Connell, and Bergens all in pit lane. I'm curious if that is a drive-through penalty for Bergens. I'm showing him at 24. I think you should be seeing 26 incident points for him.
Well, we'll jump on as we went to pit lane view that just showed us the crowd, which included some fans standing and looking the wrong way. So they're clearly not enjoying the show that we're putting on for them here tonight, which is incredibly rude. But we'll let them do what they need to do. As Reece Ashmore here saying, we've opened up a can of worms about the track at Le Mans, and he's probably right, which... you know, it is what it is. What's what we're here to do, give our honest opinions, and yeah, people will agree and disagree with us. I am absolutely sure of that. So just seeing Bergen's come through there. He's going to stop.
also,
He's on the active side of the pit lane, so he's going to stop.
Look, I mean, when you talk about it and people who like and dislike certain tracks, there's people who like Bathurst and people who are wrong. So
yeah, that's exactly right. There's people who like Bathurst and people who shouldn't participate in motorsport. So, you know, we've touched on it there. But in all fairness, talking about that, Nürburgring is one of those polarizing tracks as well.
I like it.
It's an extraordinarily rewarding track when you get it right, but it takes a long time to learn, and it takes a long time to learn how to do that. Once you do, you know, an 8-minute lap's extraordinarily rewarding there. Until you learn it, it's not.
I did it in the Skip Barbers actually in the season we've just finished, and 3 laps there. I think it was like a 10-minute lap. I don't even think it was like an 8-minute lap. I think it was 10 minutes, and it's just oh my god, so much. And you're going uphill, and the car's just not going anywhere, and you just think, you know, why did I bother? But it is. Actually, there's a winter 24 hours of the Nürburgring event that's been posted on the forums, so we're actually starting to practice for that. But that's a story for another day. The story for the current day and time is the one on track in front of you right this second. Boyd and Myers still continuing this battle, so...
Boyd into pit lane, followed directly by Brady Myers, which is what I was expecting to see. Okay. So, hour 10, this is an interesting time for these guys to be pitting.
What this is they're all trying to get the undercut on each other, and the reason they're trying to do it, they can get home from here. So what they're trying to do from here is back themselves up a little bit, go, okay, this is what I have to manage. Now there's an alternative strategy, which is where you split the race into 2 sections, hit at the halfway point, get it all done there. Unless these things aren't running on their full tank size, which that could also be another thing. So whether or not we're actually going to have to see 2 stops, I'm not sure. The maximum tank size, I can tell you for a fact, I'm pretty sure the BMW is 115. I can tell you that for sure. The Mercedes, I'm fairly certain is 110.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. There was no mention in the briefing notes about reduced or restricted fuel tank sizes, so maybe that's a question we can find out from race control. But that would certainly play into it. I would, if I were one of these drivers, be running along the strategy knowing that everyone's turned in, and then gambling. We didn't see as well whether or not, and we might be able to do it now, we didn't see whether or not any of these guys were actually taking tyres or not. But if they are, then I would be running long and taking tyres towards the end and trying to storm home with better tyre condition, given that there's an hour 10 to go or an hour 8 to go now. So taking on a lot of fuel as well. There's a reasonably long stops, minute 50. Obviously the pit lane transition's long, but the stationary time around about 40 seconds. So you would suggest there that is fuel and tyres. So
yeah, it is.
Just seeing the guys come out now, and Jack Boyd has got the job done. It's worked out well for this man. Simon Nicholson now out in the lead of this race. He has already pitted a lap beforehand. He has not taken tyres.
Okay. So
we have that play there. We're going to get to watch this battle as it develops. We'll keep an eye on the lap times here, because that will be the true teller.
I tell you what, it's actually an interesting strategical call. So I've just gotten in touch with Matty Cardolione. The setup for these things, they've actually made it. They've race control have made a very switched on decision here. They haven't allowed, because it is a fixed setup, they haven't allowed the cars to start with a full tank.
Okay.
When you come into the pits, you're allowed to fill the thing up completely, which is why we're seeing the drivers sat still for so long. They're at the end of their fuel window. That's why they're coming in. They're not coming in because they can go another lap, or they can look after themselves a little bit better. They're right at the end of their fuel window, which is actually why Simon Nicholson is still out on track, because he was looking after his fuel, trying to go longer and spend less time static. The other thing is, the benefits of setting the cars up this way is that they're not going to get home from here without a lot of fuel saving. So what Bergens was trying to do was he was trying to get to the head of this race, whereby that would put him in control, and then from there he could dictate everyone else's pace and strategy. I think that was a smart move. Unfortunately, he got loose, the car spun around, loses control of that strategy, but I think he may have been onto a trick there. The other guy I think's on a trick, Nicholson.
Yeah, well, so I'm not sure whether it's fuel or tyres that have saved him that 20 seconds, because we unfortunately didn't jump on board to see what he's done there, but you would assume he's fueled it up. If that's the case, he would have taken a lot. So it's just down to tyres, but if they are going to have to stop again, if it gets really bad, then that's when he can try and make the difference. So we just need to see if there's any drop-off in the relative lap pace of these two cars between Nicholson, Boyd Myers, and that lead group from before. If there's not, then it's going to really work for him to get that undercut. It's 21 seconds in terms of total pit lane time that he's going to end up in front. It's around about 20 seconds actually as we speak, so maybe in-lap and out-lap there having an effect on that, but the overall pit lane time around about 20 seconds. If he has to take a splash and dash at the end, or he's going to have to take tyres, then he needs to be out in front by around that 40-second... then he's going to be out in front by sort of 20 to 30 seconds to manage that and maintain the lead of the race.
So, Bergen, so let's actually sit down and just sort of talk about what we've just seen that's happened. Nicholson, short pit. I'm going to agree with you. I don't think he's taken tyres. That's fine. He's 20 seconds in the lead. He's now going to manage that, and that'll be his primary goal. Just managing it, not overdriving the car. He may have taken the trick in the first stint and been conserving everything, conserving fuel, conserving tyres, you name it, right? A lot of these guys may have had to have pit, or they recognised the lap number when they could get home. And then they've come in on that lap. I don't know enough about Luke Bergens' fuel tank size in the McLaren, and I don't know enough about the Fords either. The only ones I can, or our single Ferrari, which is Rodney Hobbs, but he's so far out of contention that I'm not really worrying about him.
I can't see any way that any of these guys can conserve 7 minutes of fuel. Not in these cars. It's just not going to happen. They're going to have to stop again. We've done enough racing here to know you cannot do much more than an hour stint in these cars. And by not much more, I'm talking like maybe you can conserve a minute or two, but not 7 minutes. They stopped, with an hour 7 and hour 8 to go. So there's definitely no chance they're not stopping again.
I agree, especially for the pace that they're running. That's the kicker. If we all of a sudden saw lap pace drop off by 2-3 seconds, all right, maybe. Because that's also going to bring the number of laps that these guys are going to have to do down massively. So right now, I would be expecting multiple guys to be basically tuned in, whether they have a spotter or not, and looking for lap times. And the first one to blink and go either a really slow or a really fast lap, you're going to see a frenzy. You're going to have guys basically deciding which side of the road that they're going to go for.
Yeah,
man.
Absolutely.
A lot of people don't get it. A lot of people look at endurance racing and go, you're just driving around a track for 2 hours. That's boring. Why would you do that? This is why you do it. Because these drivers, not only do they have to maintain the concentration and the focus, they also have to be able to pull these sorts of things off. Execution is literally, you have to be able to execute this track. Your turn-in points, your braking markers, your acceleration, your throttle curves, your pit stops, all of that for a period of 1 hour and 45 minutes. Right? That is not easy to do. That's not easy to do. A lot of people struggle to do it for one lap. These guys are doing it for 15 laps at 45 minutes. So we're going to see about, 30, 35 laps, somewhere in that range. Timing screen's telling me about 45 laps is what we're expecting to see. So to be able to do that for that period of time at the speed, the consistency, and the skill level, whilst handling lap traffic, whilst handling other cars around them, all of these factors, and have a strategy and a goal for what you're trying to do in mind and when to vary that, it is chess, but it is the most risky form of chess that you'll ever play. If in real life, on a simulator, it's a fair bit different, of course.
And also, just to take into consideration with the charging pack behind him, that Boyd and Myers here are going to be using up their tyres as we get through our first of our lap traffic, but they're going to be using tyres battling with one another. I mean, the gap here hasn't really changed. Since they left pit lane, we've got just under 0.2 of a second between these two guys. If they keep this up lap after lap, they're going to burn through these tyres relatively quickly, and that plays well into Nicholson's hands as well, as he's out in front running his own race at the moment. He's actually extended the gap here by just about a second over the last couple of laps, so it's working in his favour.
We're actually just seeing a few drivers start to connect to the server, so I'm wondering... Jack Boyd has got Cooper Murray. I'm wondering whether or not that's a spotter, or if that's a co-driver. So, interesting.
Well,
there's so many pieces of this puzzle we don't know enough about yet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I love endurance racing. I love it. Oh,
It is the best form of racing. In my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, look, sprint racing's got its kicks. NASCAR oval racing's got its kicks as well. Like, each format of racing, it appeals to somebody. Some of us like cricket and some of us are wrong.
Yeah, we can't be that brutal about that. I think we can do that about Bathurst, but, maybe not everything. As we jump on board with Trent Lavis here, who has Glenn Firth behind him, giving him the hurry along as well. And we just had notice here that Rick Kuznetsov has crashed. So I'm just trying to see where he's dropped down to. Just might be that he got an off track there. I didn't see re-enter the track or anything like that. So I think he's actually just picked up an off track and it's picked it up as an incident there. There's no damage on that car whatsoever. So potentially the timing monitor there just creating some action for us to talk about needlessly.
I've just decided to just go and check it out. It looks like it's an off track.
So we've still got, sorry, I've jumped on the wrong car there. We've still got Lavis and Firth here battling it out as well. So again, for those who didn't take tyres, and I believe, unless again the timing monitor is playing up, there's really only three drivers who didn't take tyres on that pit stop. One of which is obviously our race leader, Simon Nicholson, as we just see there, Sam Patel has crashed as well. So we'll just check that one out. He actually is dropping down the order, so that looks like a proper off-track incident. But we've only got three drivers himself, Daniel Webster, and also, by the look of it, Dwayne Voss, not taking tyres during that pit stop. We do have a couple of drivers who are close, race control tell me, to the 20 incident point limit as well, so that's going to play into this race as we get towards the back end of it. So there's a lot of factors here that are going to contribute this one nowhere near even close to over.
Okay, so Thurtell went off track in the off-camera right-hander just after the chicane at the end of Kemmel. So Bergen's just went off track as well, so he's got to be careful. Surely he's one of those drivers that's right up there.
Yeah, he is. He had 11 incident points, so when we thought he had 22 or 23, he only had 11, which lends itself to the inaccuracy of our penalty system. So
timing software.
Bear that in mind, but he, if he's gone off track there, he'll definitely have accrued at least another 1 point as well. So probably in that sort of 12 to 13 range as Hayden Jackson enters pit lane. No, he did not. Timing software is having a ball at this track. It does. It can pick up a pit lane entry even when you're just circulating around the track or close to that pit lane entry. It has a trigger point. So apologies there. It's of course it's the software's fault.
Yeah, it's not us. Don't
Not at all. Not at all. This gap at the front here is extending now out to 23 seconds. So
that's odd.
It's you know what it is? It's this.
You know what?
It's this.
You know what?
It's two drivers fighting with one another lap after lap after lap.
No, that's not what it is. I actually think you might be right. I don't think these guys can get home. And Nicholson has decided to take his short. He might have split the race into thirds.
No, I don't think it's that complicated. I think literally Boyd and Myers are holding one another up by doing it. You can see it in the lap times. They're over a second a lap slower at the moment than Nicholson. And whether they're conserving fuel or not, I doubt it because they're competing with one another. And Nicholson's just driving off into the distance because he can, because he's got no one to compete with. And he's just putting in lap after lap as the gap is out over 23 seconds now.
Well, it would explain why Nicholson pit stop was so much shorter than the rest of the guys. So, this hasn't played its course yet. There's still more to come in this equation that we're not quite sure of. Now, I was monitoring track temperature a little bit earlier on. It had dipped down to 30 degrees. And I think there was a brief moment where it was actually below 30 degrees. It's back up to 33 degrees Celsius. So, now Spa, afternoon sun. It can actually. There's a couple corners around the track where it can really get in your eyes as you're actually going to watch as Myers just gets it completely and utterly done on Boyd.
Just cuts his nose off there. That's an aggressive display of authority for those of you who are looking for a little bit of a reference back to a awesome 80s, late 80s and 90s metal band there. A vulgar display of power. Yeah, I don't know. My tip at the moment is unless something catastrophic goes wrong, Nicholson here is working his way towards having this one in the bag. So if he chooses not to take tyres at all, then he's well and truly 20 seconds or so in front of these two because he'll only have to fuel up. These guys only have to take a splash and dash, as will he. So, yeah, let's see.
I think there's more in that. I think he's got more fuel to take on. Glenn Firth has actually gone quite deep into this race. So he took an 18-second pit stop right at the start of the race, which I think was the fuel to get him back up to the top of the tank. And now he's starting to circulate himself right through things. He's sort of run a really, really lonely race, and he hasn't had to deal with too much air offset of anyone really around him and driving in that dirty air. But then again, he hasn't had the benefit of the draft on the straights. But I don't mind that. It's so much easier to turn, and it's easier to drive when you're off on your own. So whether or not he's qualified deep in the pack and gone, I've got to do something different here, dived in the pits at the end of the first lap to get that tank topped off, could have played himself into contention. Boy, isn't that a sight.
Yeah, well, this battle's been just developing a little bit here. Matty Gray and Steve Bartholomew. Bartholomew still up 9 positions. Matty Gray up 13 positions. Both having done a pit stop of varying lengths. Matty Gray having only done a top-up fuel stop as well early in the race. And he's effectively running the reverse splash and dash. And the clean air is helping him here. These guys lapping around the same time as the guys in front of them. Important to note as well while we're watching this battle, Brady Myers now the fastest man on track. He has been released from behind Jack Boyd and doing a 20.8 faster lap than the race leader Simon Nicholson last time around. So he's working on addressing that gap.
Well, sometimes when you throw the power move down, you've really got to assert your dominance. But Boyd's no slouch either. He's really just sort of going with him. Again, I think Boyd might be just playing the conservative game. Oh, look. We can postulate, ponder, and... I was looking for a third P word there and ran out of them. Oh my god!
He's had a big slide there. Just rotated around. It's very easy to do there. If you grab too much of the curb, you can over-rotate the car, and that is the consequence. So that lets Jack Boyd off the hook. He's through into second place, and Luke Bergen's back up into third as well. So this battle will rage now. We get to watch a little bit of McLaren versus BMW here as they try to pick up their race and keep going.
I was just going to say, this is the battle for those of us who aren't good enough to keep it together. This is a battle for my kind of people. Albeit these guys are much, much, much more skilled than the rest of us. So, was gonna say, is Hayden Jericho in the pits? No, but he's been in there for a fair while, so I'd say he's had enough.
He is. He unfortunately did get a drive-through for a black flag.
Yeah, and he's just decided that he's had enough of everything, and I don't think we'll see the end of him. Bergen's now looking to keep that car.
Oh, wow! There's a little bit of hello. I'm here. Any chance you can hurry up, please? He's just giving him a real old whack on the back of the car there. Doesn't look like there's any damage to the back of the McLaren. So, looking interesting here. Brad Klink's dropped in the chat to say, "Go, Steve." Brad, we wish you were out here running tonight, mate. We thought you might have been partnering up with one of these two guys, and we're going to have a GT head to the front of the field, but obviously not so. And Cody, did you know Luke polled AKC in 2018? No, I did not know that. But that is good to know. What's AKC?
That's what I was going to
Cody,
ask.
if you can, I'm assuming is it the Australian Karting Championships that he did. Obviously, all of our drivers here tonight, or a majority of our drivers here tonight, do run in either go-karting. Some of them run in the Aussie race cars as well. So, and I think we've got a couple of guys who do some dirt. So, I'm assuming it's going to be the Australian Karting Championships in 2018. No, I didn't know that, but it doesn't surprise me. He can certainly drive. So, good information to have there, Cody. So, if you can let us know, we'd love to know if that's the case. If we've got that acronym right. And yeah, so really keen for one of these GTs to get up as well, to be brutally honest. In addition to my love for the McLaren, not a massive fan of the GT, but I'm loving the variety that they're bringing to the track along with the challenge. So always keen on the Aussie battler. Oh, you know it's a thing.
I think you've got it, actually.
Like,
yeah, pro karting, Australian karting. I reckon you've got it. I just done a quick Google search just to update my information. And yeah, that looks like AKC.
Just noticed in the background here as well, this battle, Bond, Thurtell, and my man Frank Kodak getting involved in the background there. So there's, as you picked, there's a few battles just developing here out of the pit stops. It's helped sort of shuffle the pack a little bit. And Miles Bond doing a good job. He's up now into 15th following that early drive-through, starting out in 7th position at the start of this race after a small incident at the start. So he's gradually making his way back up the field, lapping at around about the same pace as a majority of the cars in front of him too. So that's a good one. And just while we're having a look through the field, Simon Nicholson still now the fastest man on track. So he has extended his gap out to around about 25 seconds at the front of the grid as a consequence of that spin from Brady Myers.
Can someone just go and staple like a 5 kilogram weight to the front of that car or something?
Which car?
Slow Nicholson down just a little bit.
No, it's going to be interesting for the championship. So
I agree.
I'm not disappointed so far. We've still got Kuznetsov running in 11th. Trent Lavis, who's just solidly entrenched in P6. He qualified in P6 and he's still in P6 now, but he is on to the back of Glenn Firth. And they're lapping at relatively equal pace, so he'll be trying to keep, I think, onto the back of Firth there. He made up a little bit of time. Firth up a whopping 8 positions as well, so on a different pit strategy to Laves. So I think it's probably fair to say Laves now effectively in 5th, but a question mark over the splash and dash required at the end of the race.
I mean, he's had probably the snooziest race of everyone on the grid. It's Trent Lavis, so this will be a welcome change for him to actually see another car on the track that he's actually trying to fight. So, yeah, look, I think you've got to remove Glenn First from the equation a little bit. I think he's going to finish, I would say, either 9th or 10th. Personally, that's where I'm looking at for him to cycle in towards the back end of the race, but this battle's not where he's sort of got his mindset and his focus right now. But look, where am I looking right about now? Bergens and Myers, that was weird, wasn't it? Just to sort of see.
As it's
oh my god, they're at it again.
Yeah, it's on here down through the fastest part of the circuit. He's going to have to relent. Is he? He's going to get an off track. Oh, there we go. Oh, that's huge. That is absolutely huge. As they decided to try and go side by side through the fastest part of the circuit, and there's no grip and there's certainly no room, so that has resulted in a very big change at the top of our table now with Brady Myers. That has massive implications for the championship as well. And Luke Bergen's there. I think he's ejected himself.
No. He hasn't ejected himself. I think he hit the DQ point limit in that incident.
That would do it. So we'll find out a little bit more about that. Brady Myers waiting to be towed back to pit lane. How has he driven that back to pit lane?
A lucky landing.
How has that happened? So he'll get a repair, and that's really, he'll now be able to fuel to the end. Look at the state of that car. That is.
Is that Perth? Perth is in, and I reckon that's first final stop as well.
Yeah, well, and I was just going to say, like, this actually doesn't work out that bad for Brady Myers. I mean, he's going to get fueled to the end here. It's not ideal. It's not where he wanted to be pitting in from, which is mid-air somewhere between the last couple of corners on the track. But he'll get that repaired, provided he didn't use his fast repair at the first stop. We'll keep an eye on it here. No, there it goes. Look at that brand new BMW for you to run home in. So 45 minutes ago, he will be one to watch. He took tyres in the first stop, so he won't need new tyres. He's just done a splash and dash there. So look at that, 7.67 is the stationary pit time for him for fuel, and that will be to the end of the race. So it really is a splash and dash. Thanks, Hugh. We hope you're doing well as well, mate. Thanks for dropping into the conversation. So Brady Myers, that gives us an indication, which is good. How long are they going to need to stop for? Because he pit on lap 15 like Jack Boyd and Trent Lavis did. And as a consequence, we're looking at around about that 7 to 8 second stop for a majority of our drivers. It also means if Nicholson did full fuel like the rest of the guys, he's only got a 7 second stop to make at the end of this race, which leaves him at this stage going to be 19 seconds in front once everyone transitions through.
Whether or not now it's actually paining me. Did he take tyres or not? Well,
no,
I mean, okay,
there's no chance he took tyres.
We know that, right? Yeah, that's the part that we do know. But it's like, what did he do at his stop? And surely, he's going to be coming in the next couple of laps. He can't go much longer.
Yeah, he can. He full fueled. He full fueled that car, and he will be on the same strategy as the cars behind him. You can't do 22 seconds worth of nothing in pit lane. He's full fueled the car taking tyres. So that
Watch me.
That car's got a 7 or 8 second stop to make unless he needs to take tyres, in which case it's about a 26 or 27 second stop. At the moment, he's 26 seconds in the lead of the race.
I wonder if he doesn't take two tyres, with the front two tyres at the stop. Because that'll reasonably maintain his pace.
Risky business.
So much so that he's not sort of leaning on a crutch of struggling to get that car home in its drivability and bleeding pace at the back end of the race. So with the way that this is all played out, so we've now got to pull Myers out of this and say that
pit lane. I'd say he got to drive through.
More than likely, yeah.
For that
he
one.
would have had to have served his stop first and then come back around for the drive-through, because otherwise he would have struggled to make a lap.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, excuse me.
So
that's
going to put him out of contention, and huge ramifications for our championship here as well. Rick Kuznetsov in third. He's up in 7th place at the moment. And, of course, Brady Myers dropping it down the order. We've got Trent Lavis. He's currently sitting in 4th and Jack Boyd in 2nd as Simon Nicholson pulls into pit lane.
I just had this feeling that he was going to come in shortly.
But this will fuel him to the end. So let's see how long he stops for and whether or not he takes tyres.
I hate that you have to sit there. One of the quirks of iRacing, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, is that you can rapidly shift up and down the gears and sort of slightly exceed your pit lane speed limiter, and it drives me nuts. It's just one of those little quirks that I hate. V8 supercars, consequently, when they were running on iRacing, ended up setting basically a hard limit that drivers had to be using the pit limiter, could not shift during pit lane. They just went, right, We're not going to deal with this.
Not a bad strategy for them. We're just watching. This is the critical stop here for Nicholson as Jack Boyd goes by to take the lead. We want to see what he does. Is he going to take tyres? Is it just a quick 7 or 8 second splash and dash? And that will confirm for us the strategy for him to the end of this race. So just on board here, we'll be taking on fuel. 7 or 8 seconds is about the stop time.
Now.
So no, he's taking on more fuel. He's going to take on about 20 seconds of fuel, and then he'll be off and running. So is the gap going to be big enough for him? No, it's not. So he is now out of the lead of this race. I just noticed Cody also dropped in to say that, yeah, Luke was the Australian Karting Championship.
No tyres.
No tyres. Equally dropping in there, Cody, that that he's basically Craig Lowndes. He is so that's a big call to compare our mate Jeff to Craig Lowndes. So Luke, sorry, my apologies, Luke Bergens to Craig Lowndes. So big call. Simon Nicholson here. He's popped out after a 31-second stationary stop, and he has popped out in 7th. So he.
I had a mini heart attack then looking at that. Did you think that was Jack Boyd for a moment there?
No. Yes, in front it's only Glenn Boyd. So what we do know is that even with that stop, his total pit lane transition time there was still 10 seconds quicker than the cars that have pit before him in terms of Lavis for his full pit lane transition time. So I'm expecting the outcome of this to be close.
Yeah, I would expect. Well, Jack Boyd took 42 seconds at the last stop. We saw that Myers needed to take 8 seconds worth of stop. Now 2 seconds each of that is going to be. Oh, it's like 1.5 seconds. It's going to be the.
It's going to be close.
Repair.
Yep.
Yeah. So interesting. I wonder if he might have just, opted to take a quick repair as well. Something else that the drivers can do look, when you're talking about a race that comes down to the finest of fine margins, you can actually uncheck the
windscreen tear off.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've used that to big advantage actually recently. So, and popped out the other side after a pit stop of a guy that I was battling with. All of a sudden, I was 2 or 3 seconds up the road from him in race 1 and over. So.
Gonna be close.
I'm interested. The race itself is sitting basically balanced on a knife's edge. Lavis, I think, is in an interesting spot. Now, the other benefit of racing in a team scenario here for Jack and Glenn is that you can bet your bottom dollar that Glenn is going to block. Because if he can hold up Nicholson 1 second, 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds here. If he can just keep him behind him for a lap and a half longer, was that a smoking car in the pits?
I'm not sure.
That might have been Jackson.
But actually, yeah, I mean, I think race control would be onto a strategy like that as well. So he just has to be careful here, and equally doesn't want to wreck his race and somebody else's trying to do something a little silly. So he's going to lose that position here now. So. Nicholson moving through into 6th spot on the grid.
Sometimes that's all you need is just that little bit of extra pressure put on the tyres. And for someone like Nicholson, who may not necessarily have taken tyres at all, that little bit of extra pressure and load on the tyres will tell in, let's say 8-9 laps time. You can already start to get the sense that maybe those tyres aren't the fresh quality that a green set you would really want underneath you at this stage of the race will be. And even though Jack Boyd hasn't got a fresh green set under his car at the moment either, they're certainly a lot cleaner looking than everyone else around him. I reckon that's got to be Hayden Jericho. I mean, it could be Adam Bolton. If it was Jericho, we would have noticed it earlier. But Bolton's done. It could be Bergens actually. It would line up, actually, if it was Bergens. Oh, that was too far back up the pits, so I reckon it's Bolton.
Anyway, it's somebody, and whoever it is, they're out of the race. So we'll keep on with Stephen Bartholomew here. He has made up a position, or he's actually battling with Ian McMahon out of their pit stop. So they've done 2 pit stops each. And we've got Rick Kuznetsov. No, it was just indicating that he'd come into pit lane there, but he actually hadn't, as he drives past the entry to pit lane, and it triggers the notification for us to try and make sure that we're awake and actually doing what we need to be doing. Daniel Webster up 10 spots here. He is in 4th position, doing a cracking job, as well as the fastest of our non-BMWs. In fact, there's 2 Mercedes inside the top 10 cars. The rest is a steam train of alternative German engineering, and the BMWs there doing a cracking job. We've got to have a look at the adjusted order. Simon Nicholson still the number 1 car to have done both of his pit stops. We know he is fueled through to the end as far as our lead pack is concerned. Stick on board here with Daniel Webster.
I don't want to throw fuel on the fire, but I've had an update come through from Matty Cartaglione. Bergens was actually removed from the server manually because he was over the incident point limit, and they deemed that the contact with Myers was intentional. So it was just there's more to that story that I think may be looked at throughout the week, and whether or not Bergens serves a suspension is something I'd say race control might discuss.
Yeah, who knows? We don't know too much about that side of this series. There's some series, as you know, that do run accumulated points on licenses and things like that lead to suspension. So interesting to hear that potentially it was intentional. It kind of didn't look...
That's an early breaking story, so there's more to come with that. So take that.
Allegedly, then.
Yeah, let's separate that and not say it's definitely this or definitely that. It's allegedly, and that's very breaking information, and let's not lock in on that. I go a little bit far sometimes with some of the things I say, and I that's right out there.
So
I don't want to.
Didn't hear that from race control then. So let's
just hear that from anyone.
Completely retract that and move right along there. Certainly apologise there.
Professionalism is so on point. I love you. Sometimes you just
apologise there to Luke Bergens for just besmirching his character and saying he was removed from the server. There
was an issue and it resulted in a result. So
yeah, no worries. So he's obviously got over the point limit, and unfortunately that he's moved on with the rest of his evening as he reached the point limit and has either been disqualified or has left the race. So back on board here with Jack Boyd still leading the race. He is 50 seconds up the road from Simon Nicholson at this point in time. So full pit lane transition around about 1:45, and he will surrender the lead of the race at some point in time. We don't believe he can make it to the end.
Interestingly, because we are using the full length pit lane here, the pit lane delta time is going to be about 58 seconds.
Yep.
That's before pit stop. So Brady Myers' full transition through the pit lane, including a 7.7 second fuel stop, was 1 minute and 5 seconds. So let's just keep that in the back of the mind as well.
Yeah, so Jack Boyd has to keep pressing on here and trying to build his lead, or else he will not retain the lead of the race once he gets through his second pit stop.
Now, Myers did sort of have a little bit of a bobble in a moment, so he's got some work to do as well. So this might actually work out in everyone's benefit in terms of what we've got right now is effectively a pseudo race, right? We are already simulator racing, but there's a race within a race going on whereby none of the cars are actually racing each other directly on track. Jack Boyd yet to pit, that much we know. Jeff Connell yet to pit, also that much we already know. They're actually not too far apart on track. 8 seconds after, what are we? An hour and 15 minutes, hour and 10 minutes worth of racing so far. That's actually not a huge margin. So really good job by Jeff Connell to stick it to Jack Boyd. We saw him throw a move last week at Brands Hatch on Boyd, make it stick, and then Boyd made himself back around just at the conclusion of the race as well. So something to keep in the back of your mind there, as there's a little bit of history from last week, but it was very, very respectful. Props to both drivers and how they handled themselves last week as well. Then we throw it back to Brady Myers. Now, Brady Myers has been spun his own car, and then unfortunately that incident with Bergens as well. So I'd say he's probably lost somewhere in the realm of 5 to 10 seconds out of that incident with Bergens as well. So there's that to consider in the back of your mind. He's another 5 or 10 seconds down the road. He was about 8 seconds back off Jack Boyd when they did get rolling after he had that mini spin on his own. And then he was fighting Bergens for about 2 laps-ish. So all of that to play itself out. Simon Nicholson, he's got 1 minute and 5 seconds basically that Boyd needs to be in front, or else Nicholson pops back out in the lead. His lap time is now 0.5 to 0.6 of a second slower than Boyd. I'm going to continue to monitor his lap times because that's a pseudo gap right there. Right now, Boyd would not come back out in the lead of the race. It would be Nicholson.
And let's be fair, Nicholson there just on screen getting held up in some lap traffic as well. So his tyres will be wearing, there's no question of that. It's just what condition they're going to be in by the end of the race. That is the key to it all. Hanging out for Jack Boyd to make his pit stop and Jeff Connell to make his pit stop to see how this pans out. But really at this stage for mine, it's only Jack Boyd who can take the win away from Nicholson at this point in time. So
the good part for us here is that both drivers have to push. So we're like, even though right now what we're looking at in terms of on-track pace isn't actually directly relative, that both drivers are pushing. I can tell you, Nicholson is trying to manage his tyres, but still extract the utmost in terms of pace. We're actually about to see Boyd cross the line. His time, 2:20.73. So he's gone slightly faster than he did on the last lap. So his previous time was a 2:20.95. So he is really trying to put the hammer down now so that he doesn't have to put a move on Nicholson in the latter stages of this race.
Still 51 seconds, the margin between Jack Boyd and Simon Nicholson, so plenty of work to do there. Rick Kuznetsov, we've jumped on board with here. He is in 5th place, and he has yet to pit. So basically, we've got 5 cars still to make varying levels of pit stops. Daniel Webster going to have to make a pit stop. In fact, he has come into pit lane now, so he equally had a relatively short first stop. So we'll see how long he's got to be stationary for to get the job done for himself to the end of this race. So we've just ticked over 30 minutes to go. We're in that crazy last stage of every endurance race. The last half an hour is always the most interesting time in the race, or potentially the most interesting time in the race. So do stick around with us as we get through the last half an hour here. Be remiss of us not to mention the people that help us make this happen. HJ Plant Repairs, key sponsor to the Oz Pro-Am Sim Series, and our sponsors as well, Virtual Motorsport Mentor and AFTERSHOCK PC. Good time as well to do a call out to the guys, we mentioned him a couple of times here, Matty Cartaleone and his team who help put on this event as well. I know all the drivers enjoy it and they do a fantastic job administering and running this series. There's that smoking car you were talking about before, and good time to say thank you to them as well for all the hard work and effort they put in throughout the week running this thing for us.
I actually went back and decided, I was like, I'm really curious, who is in that smoking car? It's Jericho.
Yeah,
so we just missed it completely the whole race. So
a BMW just having a good time in pit lane. Just watching for the stationary time here, 22 seconds. So he's having to do a little bit more, 25 seconds there for fuel. So he's going to pop out around about 10th spot as a short pit lane exit for him. It means that he'll come out in front of Frank Hodak.
I've always, can I just say quietly, I really, really like Webster's car and his livery. There's something, it's not simple, and it's just got that little bit of extra finesse in it. There's a little bit of patterning in the livery, as well as all those sponsor logos, and there's some really nice, bright, prominent. You can tell them. That's the best part about a good livery. You take one look at the car, and you're like, I know who that is.
Elite Jade's just put in a question here. Did the sponsors pay for the fuel? I'm going to say yes, except for those without sponsorship who may run a little short at the end of the race.
So are you telling me that that's why Nicholson hasn't come in for tyres? It was only enough in the budget there for fuel?
Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. But no, look, the sponsors do a fantastic job in jumping on and providing the prize money for our drivers. This is a series that does provide prizes for the drivers. So we've got a fastest mover award that's brought to us by Peninsula Transfers. and H&O jump on board for our qualifying award as well during the week. So the guys there supporting and HJ Plant Repairs putting up the prizes for first, second, and third in this series, which I believe is $350 for our series champion once we get to the end of it. So given that a lot of these guys do this as a hobby, $350 for doing something that you enjoy and just being good at it is not too bad. Nothing to sneeze at there.
And can we go back to like last Saturday and put $350 up for the 3-hour race at Imola that we ended up winning? That'd really make my afternoon. But anyway, time to keep your eyes forward on the track. It's time to keep another bit of a check-in. I think you've just moved back to Nicholson.
I have.
He's managed to get by Boyd, Glenn Boyd that is, but he hasn't driven off into the distance in front of him as they come up on lap traffic again. That's Rodney Hobbs trying to get out of the way. Slight little bit of a hold-up, but good job there by Nicholson and Boyd to just sort of avoid him. Frank Hodak's in the pit lane to serve his final stop as well. All those fans, look at them.
I can't believe some of them look the wrong way. Like,
they're just looking straight into a cement wall, basically, aren't they?
Unbelievably rude. So as Hodak services his final stop, he's in 14th at this point in time. He's coming around that fatal corner in the pit lane. Miles Bond up into 8th at the moment. So that's where one place shy of where he started this race. And he does still have to do a final stop, but he served a full pit stop in the early part of the race. So he will only have to do a top up. So expect to see him potentially make his way back into the top 10 at the end of this race. We've got a small grouping of cars here that have got to do their pit stops still. And while we were talking about Nicholson, he is or had been up until the last lap for Jack Boyd matching the leader's lap pace. So he's not really having that gap eaten into at the moment. He's currently 54 seconds adrift of Jack Boyd at the lead.
It's growing, but slightly. So
it's going to be close.
That's really the first time he's dipped into the 22s, but also got to remember that they did actually have to navigate Rodney Hobbs on that last lap around as well. So whether or not that's created the slight differential in lap time.
Got Brady Myers here as well in the background, just closing in on Steve Bartholomew, which can have championship implications.
Yeah, look, every spot he gains back is another point back in his favour. In the order of things, Matt Gray is still up 7 spots. Has he served his final stop?
Yes, he has. So he's in position. Brady Buchanan hasn't in the mix there. So we're going to have a little bit of change of position there.
It's just trying to sift through the data right now and sort of sort everything out. So drivers that are through to the end, first is Nicholson. We knew that, right? So Stephen Bartholomew is the next. Brady Myers, Ian McMahon, Daniel Webster, Glenn Firth, Matt Gray, Hayden Jackson, Frank Hodak, Rodney Hobbs.
So Steve Bartholomew here is actually in the adjusted order of things at this stage with the pit lane transition time and what have you. He is as high up on the track as 6th position.
Potentially, yeah. So, look, if we add another stop, he could be anywhere up as high as where Nicholson is right now, basically. For all the cars that are in between them that haven't stopped, they'll all pop out behind Bartholomew. So that'll be Glenn Boyd, Miles Bond, and Sam Lehman and Thurtell, I believe.
And it's going to be
pop back out behind him.
So
it's going to be P6.
Yeah, it's going to be close for Kuznetsov as well, who hasn't served his second pit stop. I think Lavis will come out in front with a minute 20, the gap there. Just depending on how long he's stationary for, really. So a good job here. We're going to see some variety again at the top of the charts. We could have, with the exception of McLaren, all the brands represented in our top 5 cars at this point in time. So looking forward to that.
I'll tell you what, Myers is flying. Absolutely flying right now. Crawling all over the back end of Stephen Bartholomew. So Bartholomew's going to drop another spot. So it's going to be P7 once Myers makes his way through.
Yeah, well, I mean, you say that it was close at the tail end of last lap here, but the gap's broadened again. between them. So the strengths and weaknesses of the two cars playing out here, that GT being very strong in a straight line. So
I tell you
it's
who
got to try and
is
get the
out
job
of
done here.
position in terms of pace. Sorry to talk over here, Stuart.
You're right, mate.
Sam Dertel is running 2:23 laps, and he's 8 seconds up the road from Bartholomew, and Bartholomew is just eating into him in terms of sector times. So the second sector, which is actually basically anywhere from about just past Eau Rouge and Redillion, all the way through to the back end of that straight, he is 0.8 of a second faster. So, jeez, wow. What a sector, you know?
It's going to be close.
Another 1.7 seconds he's taken out of Thurtell on that last lap. So Thurtell is well and truly going to be in the rearview mirror. But Myers has got some work to do, and that Ford is not a slouch in a straight line, and that's the easiest spot to get it done, is right down at the end of the Camel.
Yeah, so he's maintaining the gap there. So remember, Myers didn't take tyres in that stop, so the age of his product is the same as that of Bartholomew, so there'd be no advantage there. But the BMW getting a really good run up the hill here. He's going to get the job done. And that there is actually just a benefit of the run up the hill and the better control that BMW has. So Myers does get the job done and move up one further position. We're really holding out here. Our last pit stops, we're waiting for them basically any minute now. We've got 21 minutes to go in this event, and it can't be long.
Can't be, and I mean, Boyd's going to run it out, that much is for sure, because he does not want to come out Nicholson. Anytime that he has to make an overtake, it's not going to happen. Nicholson's closing on Kuznetsov as well, so whether or not Kuznetsov and the dirty air behind him is maybe causing... Oh, sorry, it's Kuznets?
Now, Kuznetsov's about 6 seconds up the street from Simon Nicholson, so we've still just got this gap here with Nicholson and Boyd, who, as you said, it hasn't broadened that much. We're still at around 3/4 of a second, and just keep an eye on that as we get closer to remembering, of course, that there is still another pit stop to come for Kuznetsov, Laves, and Connell. There's no way that Laves could have managed his fuel that well to get through without an extra stop. He was in 6th position for a majority of this race and by himself, so unlikely. That's 7 minutes or so of fuel that he would have needed to save to make full race distance, we understand. But, you know, stranger things have happened.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? Anything could have happened.
Miles Bond goes round for another lap here, expecting him to stop in at some stage soon as well. And who is our fastest man on the track at the moment? It is Jeff Connell last lap with a 20.83. And he was nearly a second faster than Jack Boyd. So potentially starting to feel the effects of tyre wear. We haven't checked on the track temperature in a while as we jump on board with Frank Hodak, who's still battling away. Still up at 32 degrees. So the track not really improving. It's not going to change too much now between now and the end of the race, which will conclude at just before 5 o'clock track time on May the 15th. So going back a few months there, track time, but in the midst of summer in France.
Well, it's Belgium.
It's actually Belgium. Sorry, yeah, I knew. As I was saying, I'm like, hang on a minute, it's in friggin' Belgium, you moron. Anyway, we'll let that go. It's the end of a long day, so as we're in Belgium. But yeah, Jack Boyd still leading the race, waiting on him to do his final pit stop, which we're anticipating is going to take total transition time around about a minute 5, and the gap that we're looking at is between him and Simon Nicholson, which at the moment is only 53 seconds. That's the effective race for the lead. With all these drivers running pretty much the same lap times. Fastest man still Jeff Connell. Brady Myers also chipping in with a 2:20 on his last time around. So he, now that he's cleared Steve Bartholomew, is off and running. He's opened up nearly a 2-second gap there. So as we see, who's that in the pits? as Dwayne Voss has jumped into pit
Yeah.
lane there. Tell you what, Hayden Jericho's pit crew must be eating ice cream because they have not done a great job getting his car back to scratch. And thanks very much for the support there, Brad. Absolutely, the French-speaking part of Belgium. That's exactly what I meant when I said it. So that's exactly what I meant. I just couldn't quite get the words out. Sam Thurtell in pit lane as we look at all the people looking the wrong direction yet again. Sam's actually had a cracking run. He's driven a really good race. He's up 3 spots at the moment. Probably not where he wants to be, but he's not been caught up in any of the events of the race so far. So doing a good job in the run through this hour 45. Also, interesting that no drivers driving with co-drivers. We did have co-drivers at our first endurance event, and we haven't had any tonight.
I don't mind that.
No, neither do I. Hour 45, no problem. Get it done. Get it done. I mean, some of these guys do the endurance racing. Sorry about that. Some of these guys do the endurance racing as it sits, and you know it's common to do 2-hour stints. So, hour 45, yeah, it should be all right.
That's a snooze, really, when you think about it. Oh look, it's another needless complication. It's 15 seconds that's added to a stop that you don't need to think about. So,
just noticed as well. I'm not sure if anything happened with Lavis there, but he has been closed up on by Kuznetsov to the tune of just on half a second. So, and in fact, letting him go by. Not sure what the deal is. He may... interesting or fuel saving?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's... Fuel saving, I mean, you know, you can just sort of say a myriad of things, really, but...
let's have a listen.
We both know this is my favourite shot of the night, and this is the one that'll tell the story.
Yep, fuel saving. Massively fuel saving.
He might get home!
I did say to you he was running his own race for a majority of the race, and my thought is he's fuel saved, or trying to fuel save. That 7 minutes we spoke about. He's off the gas real early, and he would know that everyone else. He's got a minute to spend in fuel saving.
He's got to be close. Oh, I mean,
he's short. Yeah, he's short shifting. He is trying to make it home on one stop. Let's see if anyone else is fuel saving. Jump on board with Jack Boyd here. He is definitely. He's not fuel saving at all.
No, he's pushing, and I don't blame him. So.
Jump on board with Jeff Connell. No fuel saving.
Tell you what, Jeff Connell on that last lap around 220 was faster than both Rook Kuznetsov behind him, and massively faster than Kuznetsov behind him, but also just as quick, if not faster, than Jack Boyd in front of him as well. I think about a second faster than the car ahead of him on the road. So Connell's a fair way adrift, but don't count him out just yet.
Just on board here with Kuznetsov as he makes his way around. He will have to pit shortly too. Unless, you know, it couldn't be that none of these guys are aware of the fact they're going to need to pit. They'll have people in their ear. Here comes in Kuznetsov as we talk about it. So first of our lead pack to pit in. This will move Lavis up one more spot. He is fuel saving like fuel is $8 a litre. And we've got Glenn Boyd in as well as that gear shift changing strategy you spoke about is happening right in front of our eyes.
Doesn't it just irk you sometimes?
So we'll jump on board with Glenn Boyd. He's not doing the old rip shift dance as he gets through pit lane.
I'll tell you what, who this releases. This releases Simon Nicholson. Because now he's not dealing with
traffic.
He's no longer, well, not traffic, but he's no longer going to deal with Glenn Boyd just sitting there in the rearview mirror.
This is significant fuel saving. Significant.
Hey, that's 225? What?
Significant fuel saving. Like, he's driving to a number that is so low, it would make you feel like you've got vertigo.
I was about to say, what are we're going to start having a limbo stick out competition out here with his fuel target.
Well,
he's going to have to let Nicholson go.
Nicholson's made up over a second and a half in about 3 corners.
2.4 seconds he's made up in the first
And there it
sector
goes.
line.
And Lavis is thinking, I'll see you on the podium if I make it.
Oh, he can't.
He could.
If he's fuel saving this much, it's literally to get this lap in. He's got to be.
He could save at this point in time, given everyone else has got a pit and it's a minute. He could save 10 laps. He could do this for and not lose a spot. At 5 seconds a lap, as Jeff Connell comes into pit lane now.
Boyd's still going.
He did pit 1 lap later than Connell, so expect him in next lap.
Well, yeah, there you go.
Expect him in next lap.
There you go. I went to the F1 there in 2013 from Brad Clent. It's all solo in this series. This series doesn't have co-driving duties. There you go.
Must be thinking of the enduro that we did for the NZSR boys then.
You would be because it was Sanford
That's it.
driving with, and I can't remember his name. I believe it was Ali. No, I can't remember.
You know the other risk of fuel saving this severely? Running off the track because your rhythm is significantly disrupted. So you end up missing your braking point because you're running on or off throttle. As Nicholson is going to go past Connell there, he's done that. Lavis moves back past Connell in pit lane. He's still not out of pit lane there. So what's the gap going to be when he does get out?
He's going to lose it. He's going to lose the podium. There's no way Lavis can make the podium from here.
No, the gap's too small. It's only 5 seconds now. Unless he saved enough that he can go.
2:30? 2 minutes 30!
Yeah, this
He's
is
really cruising around now,
Lavis.
isn't he, boys?
Oh, g'day, Matty. Welcome to the Combox, mate. Yeah, he's we're just saying he's saving fuel like it's a Dolomite account. He's definitely
He's committed to it now.
He's stuck.
Yeah,
But
you
Connell's
can't go back on the strategy now, or it will undo itself.
Connell's going to eat him up. So, but Nicholson's going to get through, I think, here with the race win. Jack Boyd, 55 seconds in front. Pit lane transit's going to take at least a minute. And the Connell stop there was a minute 19. So, total pit lane transition. So you'd expect that Boyd's only going to be about 2 seconds faster than that. Yeah, so, and Boyd's in now.
Boyd's in.
So,
I still don't think Trent's close enough to even pass him in the lane while Jack's still transiting.
No, it's not gonna
and
happen.
he's just leading time.
He's about to get lapped here, or he's about to get unlapped here.
Connell was, what, 8 seconds back off
He's
Boyd?
already right on his rear bumper now.
yeah, it's only 4 seconds gap here. So we'll switch it back out so we can have a look at this as Connell is going to rapidly eat up the gap to Lavis, who was trying to save himself enough fuel to get through to the end of the race, and he's not going to get there by any stretch of the imagination. Sam Lehman may well get on top of him as well, albeit Sam still has to pit. That means Rick Kuznetsov is the next to benefit potentially from this challenging way to try and manage this race through to the end. So Boyd's still transiting pit lane. He's about to pull in.
I'm watching for Lavis. Oh,
Well,
my
it's
heart
about-
is in my mouth for him.
It's about to happen.
He's not going to get out in front of Jack's on the. Jack's just about to exit the lane. No, he's not. He's actually pulling in now. So
He will get out.
He's moving. He's moving now.
He's
Jack
moving.
is now moving. Jack's
Yeah.
out. Jack's out in front of Connell.
What's more is he's not.
Sorry, Nicholson. Sorry, my mistake, not Connell.
He's out in front of Nicholson, but the gap now will rapidly close because Nicholson's at full speed, and Boyd is going to have to defend.
there goes Connell.
So Connell's
Oh,
part.
And Nicholson's
Oh,
got it done. So
Nicholson's
Nicholson
on
is.
full noise here.
Yeah, he's in the lead. He's got it done just because of the fact that he's not been exiting the pit lane. So he's going to now be able to defend his way. 7 minutes 55 to go. So
It's
we've
gonna
got.
be a good battle.
It is roughly 4 laps left in this one.
Who
And
would have thought after an hour and 35 minutes, a little bit more, we've still got a car separated by less than a second. 2 different strategies.
yeah, and Nicholson's not taking tyres, so that's his roll of the dice, and it's playing off for him. track hasn't
He's going to be
cooled.
struggling now, I think.
Yeah,
Track's 29 degrees Celsius right now.
so it has
Yeah,
dropped
and
a
look
bit.
at his previous times, 221. If I'm not sure if what Jack's tyre strategy's been throughout the race, but
Jack took tyres at his first stop, and he's been running
okay.
in the high 220s for most of the race.
Okay, so
Yeah.
he's on fresher tyres than Simon here. Simon's going to be earning his pay here.
But Simon's done a really good job. His overall lap pace and consistency's actually not been bad at all. And let's not forget that Boyd was battling for a significant period of time to try and defend or keep up with second position as well against Brady Myers. So it's not necessarily the case that just because he's got newer tyres that they're in any better condition than Nicholson, because he's had to work harder throughout the race. Nicholson's been running free.
Oh, I tell you what, isn't this an exciting prospect? We've got 3 laps left.
What are the off-track situations like, Matty?
I think both boys are quite. Yeah, Jack's on 16, so he's got a few to play with, and 15 for Simon. So
Okay.
they've both got 5 and 4 respectively to play with. So
That's
So
good to
a
know.
touch here sees them come down the lane for a drive-through penalty.
Ooh, that's
for Boyd it would, not for Simon or Nicholson. Sorry. So he's got one more up his sleeve. I remember having a chat to Jack a couple of months back, and he explaining the gain in actually using your off tracks to your advantage when needed, and it can net, nearly up to, I think, 2 seconds a lap. So
yeah, it can.
could be strategically saving the off tracks here to use them at the latter half of the race.
Yeah, particularly at this track against others as well. And yeah, Luke, you're right. Jack has done a triple stint. I know we believe he has taken tyres, Luke.
Yeah.
So we believe he took tyres at his first stop. So unless he got a stop-go penalty, but the time delta doesn't make sense for that. He was only 20 seconds longer in his first stop, which fits with the rest of the teams that took tyres. So either way, it's come down to the last 5 minutes of this hour 45 race, brought to you by HJ Plant Repairs. There's
Lavis is still going with his fuel save strategy.
He's still got quite a bit of a gap to Sam. So
so look at the difference, right? Connell come out, he was right behind Lavis. It was about 4 seconds behind. So he's lost 10 seconds in about a lap and a half to Lavis. Lavis has lost that to Connell. Lehman is the next car back down the road, is 15 seconds. So if he's losing 5 seconds a lap, currently Lavis is losing 8 seconds a lap.
Yeah,
so he's going
Lavis
to finish P5.
should finish. There's only 4 minutes to go, so it's going to be tight. It's going to be tight.
Oh, tell you what, Matty, what a time to jump in the com box, mate.
yeah, it's these endurance races are having a pattern here of
now
this.
my eyes deceive me, or is Nicholson starting to drive it away from Boyd?
He looks like he's found a little bit of pace, and he's starting to apply the pressure and asking questions of Mr. Jack Boyd.
Interesting as well, just in the chat here, Luke suggesting that Simon just short-filled his first stop, that it's got nothing to do with tyre strategy. So we'll have to find out when we get these two into the com box after the race what the net result was. 20 seconds is a lot of short fueling, so we'll have to ask those big questions. But yeah, Nicholson here doing a fantastic job either way on old tyres to get it done.
Lap pace would suggest otherwise. Their lap pace would suggest otherwise, because Nicholson's had a very definitive sort of fall off. Everyone else's has stayed much more consistent. Sam Lehman's in the box. Sam Lehman's in the box.
Wow!
So that unleashes Trent to sort of just cruise to the line.
He's done. Yeah, he's gonna get the job done now. He's 25 seconds up, and it sounds like he's picked up the pace a little bit. He did a 2:27 last lap. I know that doesn't sound like it's picking up the pace, but when you're doing 2:29s, it is. Yeah, so he's going to secure 4th spot. Probably got away a little bit with it there with with the strategy that he's run, but we love someone who's willing to take it on, so it's good work.
Oh man, I tell you what, wouldn't it have been awesome to have Lavis in the comm box to talk about that strategy after the race. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you see why we like endurance racing? This is why. Look at the strategy and to steal an American term, strategery that's going on. That was one of the crew chiefs for a NASCAR team come up with that one. I couldn't tell you much more than that. Only that I heard that it was used.
So we've
oh man,
still got reasonably good lap pace here. So I reckon that we're still right. Simon's taken no tyres at all. So 221.8 is still a cracking lap for a car that's done 42 laps, coming on 43 laps.
Both these boys are starting to use their off tracks now. Jack's got this could be the last lap here. Jack's got 2 remaining, and Simon's got 4, has used 1. So this could be, you've got to be very careful here. Jack's got 1 to play with now.
Yeah, and
so he's just burned one coming through Blanchimont as they're going to get the white flag. It'll be
the last lap now.
Yeah. That time, sorry, the finish line, no, the start finish line's actually up the top. It's the finish line's at the top, the start line is down here on the next section of straight. So it's a little bit different.
And that's good for Lavis as well, because he needs all the help he can get. I actually think
we're going to go 1 more, I think.
Yeah, we've got 1 more lap. So I was just having a little heart attack there for a second, because the timing monitor stopped his lap progress but didn't stop the timing counter. I thought maybe he'd run out of fuel, but certainly still
He's
going
still going there.
Yeah, still going. What did he do there at 28.9?
Drive.
Yeah, that's exactly right. He's got
his missus in the car, and he's cruising along Mount Mead in Queensland. And sightseeing.
Just having a good time.
His missus is punching him in the leg, saying, Art, drive to the speed limit, please.
And you're about to bring it up as well. We did see someone run out of fuel at Belle Isle, just shy of pit lane. I believe in one of the early races this season.
I want to say Webster.
Yeah, was it a blue BMW or blue Mercedes?
No, it wasn't. It was the blue Mercedes. It was at Mid-Ohio.
Right. Mid-Ohio. There we go. So we did see someone run out of fuel earlier on, but not tonight. By the look of it, Lavis is going to get home on the scent of an oily rag, so they say. Nicholson here, up 2 spots, still bringing us around. We'll have 1 more lap to go, I believe. No, this will wave the flag. It should wave the flag. It's always different. I've never worked out exactly how it works with iRacing. If it's down to 0, there's no final lap because it's not +1 lap. So this should conclude the race for us here. Happy to be corrected when we get around there if I am wrong.
I think it's just got to do with whether it's a heat racing format or it's a normal... normal format. I'm not sure. This is the Enduros are run under just the normal format, whereas the heat races obviously are run through the UI, so it runs a little differently.
And you do get that +1. I'm pretty sure based on what we get with the and thanks for the follow there, Jog GIF 80. I'm pretty sure based on this it is the this is going to be the last 2 corners. So we're going to have Simon Nicholson bring this home for his maiden race win in the Oz-Pro-Am Sim Series. Congratulations to him. It's a race and strategy well run. We've got Jack Boyd coming home in 2nd, and we're going to end up with Jeff Connell bringing 3rd place home. It is a BMW lockout on the podium here, and I just want to hear, before we jump back to our leaders, how much this car gets home by, whether or not he's going to start coughing as he gets across the start-finish line or not. Managing the longest stint without a pit stop is our 4th place bringer, Trent Lavis, who will consolidate his position in the championship by doing that. Could have been diabolical for him if he ran out of fuel in terms of maintaining that 2nd place, and he'll close the gap.
I want to see his Motec display, because I'd have to say there is under a litre of fuel in that car.
And Martin Crisp, definitely a happy man in the chat there with a massive woohoo, mate, for clearly his friend Simon Nicholson, who has done a fantastic job to run this race on 1 set of tyres in the heat at Spa, and really not dropping off the pace all race either. So a fantastic job there. Thanks for joining us again, Jill. Yeah, the guys at Boyd did a fantastic job. Jack and Glenn had great races between them as well. Just want to quickly refresh my memory about the current standings.
My word, actually, before you go too much further, Can we just? Oh, okay. No, I was about to say, I'm showing Bartholomew running in P5, but he finished P7. That is a phenomenal drive.
Yeah.
And the hard charger award for this evening.
Yeah,
to
it
Steve Bartholomew.
goes to him. He's going to move up that listing there as well, thanks to Peninsula Transfers. So great job there from the drivers, and equally a remarkably clean race. I mentioned it just after we got into it, and we're about 5 laps in. The driver's doing a fantastic job here. It's a tricky circuit to get started on cold tyres, and we had a really, really clean run with only a few incidents to speak of. So a fantastic job to the entire field to get things done this evening. We like it that way. Let the racing produce the result. So we're just sort of waiting here to get our top 3 drivers into the combox. So I was just about to quickly discuss while we did that as well, the changes to the championship as a consequence of that. Obviously, these standings that we're bringing up now are from before tonight, but you got Boyd, Lavis, Kuznetsov as our top 3. So Boyd and Lavis will consolidate their positions at the top here, and Kuznetsov will equally do the same. Daniel Webster dropping down a little bit, and Brady Myers as well suffering a little bit because of some issues during the race. So it'll shake up the top of the championship there, particularly given that it is relatively close between Boyd and Lavis at the top. So we'll bring those point standings to you on our socials across the week as they are released. But we've had a fantastic race tonight.
Can I just actually? I wanted to put something directly to Maddie.
Yeah, he's not here, so he won't help.
Damn. I was actually who would be his driver of the day. If you had to look throughout the field right now, who would you be your driver of the day? I know Nicholson's done a phenomenal job. I would actually lean towards giving it to Stephen Bartholomew because he's finished way out of position for me. Normally he's like a above 10th place, sort of you generally see him, but he's done a phenomenal drive to get that forward all the way up into 7th.
And I think you're right. That was when you were talking, I was looking through the list thinking that he was going to be my pick as well. So spot on.
Because he's the first of the non-BMWs as well.
And it's not only that, as we talked about before in the pre-com, it's weighted numbers for the BMWs. There's just so many of them that it's always going to end up that we're going to have a pack of them together up towards the top of the field here. But he's driven a really consistent race, kept his nose clean, and managed to bring that Ford home. As I believe we've got Jeff Connell joining us in the commentary box now. Jeff, how are you?
Pretty tired, mate.
Pretty tired, yeah. That's not surprising. A solid hour 45 for you guys there. It was a great race for us to get to watch. How did you find it?
Yeah, it wasn't a bad race. Spent a lot of it driving around by myself because I went a different strategy. So it wasn't too exciting, but I suppose the result's okay.
Look, Jeff Scott here. At the end of the day, you'll take it. But what about driving the very slow moving Trent Lavers BMW? He was fuel saving like a mad thing at the end there.
Yeah, I thought about that strategy, but my maths wasn't good enough to try something like that, so I just drove flat out. So yeah.
So we are joined by our full podium now, so we'll jump across to Simon Nicholson. Simon, congratulations on your maiden win in the AusPro-Am Sim Series, mate. A race well run. And I'd just like to put it out there that I said probably at around lap 13 or 14 that I thought you had the race won, just to throw some sticks on the ground. But you drove a really good strategy, and three pit stops, or sorry, I should say, getting through the entire race there on the same set of tyres.
Yeah, it was good. I originally planned to do a tyre change, hence why I went the lighter fuel at the start to help the older tyres. But I came into pits and I still had good percentage left on the tyres, so I said, stuff it, we'll go for it. I had to put 80 litres on the old tyres, but when I came out, I see I was still doing good lap time, so it was the right choice to make.
Yeah, and we did remark on that as well. We're keeping a real close eye on your lap times in comparison. And Jack, if I can get your comment now, yourself and Brady Myers obviously fighting for a fair portion of the race until he came unstuck with about 10 or 15 laps to go. Did that contribute to the tyre life for you, even though you did take tyres early in the race?
Yeah, 100%. unfortunately probably shouldn't have been fighting, but that's all right. So yeah, that was actually the same set of tires for the whole race, and
Oh, okay.
yeah, I think that just zapped what was the tiny bit that was left out of him for the last bit of the race. But yeah, still an amazing race. I mean, I don't think I've ever done a race over an hour and a half and I haven't been bored at all. So yeah, it was definitely a great race.
There was no, even though we were looking up and down the field the entire way through the race this evening, we were looking up and down the field and going, hang on, but this guy's still in contention because of this, and this guy's still in contention because of this. Was there any stage of the race that you actually felt comfortable, and whether or not you had the race on lock at all?
Nah, definitely not. I mean, after Brady spun, I did take a little breath, but then once again, I was looking at the lap times and I saw Simon catching me again. So yeah, definitely not a dull moment, and yeah, very intense race.
Look, where would you rate that one in terms of your your overall races and endurance races, maybe specifically? Where would you actually put that one in terms of contention?
For me, I'd put that right up the top because, you know, it's pretty hard. You're trying to maximize the car, and obviously, you know, you got half your mind thinking about strategy, what the other guys are going to do, whether you're going to take tires, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it was definitely a good race for me and one of my best enduros.
Would you mirror that, Simon? It was a and at all stages you weren't really directly fighting on track, but the battle was still there and thereabouts, wasn't it?
Yeah, I knew once I'd done the light fuel, I really had to go for it to try and pull that gap to give me a head start after the second pit stop. So like Jack said, I was just watching the lap times, and I'd pull a few quick ones, and then he'd pull a quick one, and then it was always push, and you're still trying to battle with traffic and that there, and I was actually having a good battle with his dad there for half the maybe a quarter of the race. So yeah, no, it was all good.
Jack, was there any messages relayed through Glenn at any stage? Hey, can you just hold him up a little bit?
Yeah, maybe a little bit, but nah, we were just talking about strategy quite a bit. You know, he had an eye on Simon, I had an eye on some of the other guys. So yeah, it was a good all-round race for everyone, I think.
And next week, guys, we head to Interlagos, where we get back into our usual format of racing with the sprint race followed by the slightly longer format race at the end of the night. What are we to expect when we head there next week?
Yeah, I think that it'll be a pretty close race. Obviously, we've got less time to make positions, and of course, you know, you got the stop in the second race. So, yeah, probably not my best track, but I think it'll create some good racing. It might have an advantage to some of the other cars as well.
I'm looking forward to the run home here. I was just having a quick look at it. We've got Interlagos followed by Road America, another one of another great racing circuit for these cars, and then we close out the season with two enduros, one at Sebring and the last round, of course, at basically the mecca of motorsport globally, Mount Panorama. And it's going to be a great couple of closing events for us. So really looking forward to seeing how you guys bring it home. Simon, have you got anyone you want to thank, mate, while you're on the top step of the podium spraying the champagne?
Yeah, just XRC Racing, Track Racer, the guys that done the paint job in XRC as well. They put a lot of work in changing designs and that now. RC Maker and Simcore.
Fantastic. And Jack, yourself?
Yeah, just a big thanks again to Bimstruck Drafting Services.
And Jeff, what about yourself, mate?
No sponsors here, but yeah, once again, thanks to you guys for broadcasting it, and Cardo and everyone that puts the events on. It's been good fun and been well run. So even though I'm well out of the points, it's still good fun to turn up every week.
We definitely have to fix that. If you're interested in getting your business shown on our stream, you know, we can get you in contact or through the series organisers with Jeff there. If you want to get your name on his car, definitely can't have someone getting around with no sponsorship on their car, unless, Jeff, you want it that way. But if you're interested, then contact. We can help hook you up there to get some exposure for your business.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to have some partners. So yeah, that's all good.
Yep, beautiful.
in terms of our sponsors as well, something to probably mention is that in the last 2 weeks, the one guy that has been consistently, other than Brady Myers, of course, Brady Myers phenomenal, has been on consistently right throughout the season, being able to take it to Jack. Jeff Connell made a move stick for a couple of laps and nearly won a race over Jack Boyd last time out at Brands Hatch. So if you're looking for a quality driver, even though his I rating may not suggest it, Jeff Connell might be actually the guy to stick your logo on the front of his car.
Yes, but if I remember correctly, it's because Jeff doesn't do a lot of official racing, and his racing in the series certainly stacks up. So, as we said, if you're looking for someone to jump on board with, get in contact with us, and we will help you out. That gets us towards the end of the evening. Thanks for joining us, guys. Simon, Jack, and Jeff, congratulations again on a race well run. Looking forward tomorrow night. We've got Ant's car, and we're doing some interesting stuff there. We've got modifieds running. And a couple of change-ups coming for that series over the next few weeks. Followed by Thursday night, we head back to the Australian Endurance Championship, where the guys are heading to that track that we turned into a dirty word earlier on during the evening. They're heading to Le Mans for a 2-hour enduro there with the GT3 and GTE series, looking to see how that championship progresses. Plenty of other stuff coming on FGM ECast as well as we get through the balance of this week into the weekend with lots of EA Sports stuff to play. And then we get back into next week with a full panel of motorsport for you. So Scotty will be back with me on Thursday night for the AEE series. That'll be on from 7:10. We don't have any of the NZSR series coming to you this week as they reformat after that championship concluded last Thursday evening. Scotty, highlight for this evening?
Somebody managed to actually place a correct bet on the podium of Monza GP. Did you see that one?
No. You're kidding.
So it's Gasly, Sainz, Stroll.
Yeah, I saw the podium. I can't believe someone managed to place a bet on that. What did they do? Get
166,990 to 1.
What was it? A random chance multi? They just stuck $5 into the machine on the wall and it spat out a random for them. You can't tell me anyone would actually gamble on that. How much money did they put down?
I'm just trying to pull it from a post now, but
the odds for that result they'd probably put $1.50 down.
Surely.
Turned it into 110,000. That's a significant bet. You sort of normally only hear about that at the end of a multi, so no, that's a random.
Spent a mere 20 cents.
Oh, well,
so
there you
they
go.
didn't get the.
I was close.
Oh boy.
Unbelievable. Beautiful. Yeah, no, well, another great race run and won. Thanks again to our sponsors, HJ Plant Repairs, for your support of the series. Peninsula Transfers.
Trust me.
Peninsula Transfers as well. And then we've got, of course, our fantastic partners, the guys out at AFTERSHOCK, Ryan and the guys out there look after. If you need a gaming PC for anything, whether you want to just do Fall Guys or get yourself right up to the top and run some of this stuff where you need the best gear to do it, Ryan and the guys will help you out. And, of course, Chris and the team at Virtual Motorsport Mentors. I'm Stuart Brown, that was Scotty Rankin, and we are done and dusted for another Tuesday night here on FGM ECast. We will see you tomorrow, coming to you live. We've actually got Fall Guys first, having just mentioned it triggered my memory, so Reese and I will be doing some our best in that incredibly frustrating world that is Fall Guys to see how we go towards winning a crown, and we look forward to you joining us then. Bye for now.